All right, Shalom family. We're trying to get set up here. Make sure that we can be on for a little while. Hopefully y'all are doing well. All righty. I think we got all the platforms up. Let's get ready to get into it. All right. Oh, I thought I was on everything. My bad. Sorry about that, y'all. Okay. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our redeemer, and it is in his name, which is his authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Amen. All righty. Hola, mi nombre es Kofi. Hola, mi nombre es Kofi. ¿Cómo está? Bonjour. Je m'appelle Kofi. Ça va? Ni hao. Namaste. Kamsamida. Osaya Nakatuya. Ohio. I see you. Habari gani? Jambo mimi ni Kofi ninavra kukutana na wewe. Ako aba. Itasen. Manut. Bakwartav. Barak Allah Cham Yahava. Shalom Allah Cham Yahava. And I Kofi. Helet at Servants of Christ. Mashalom Che. Hello, everybody. I'm Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servants of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. We thank you for being on with us today. We appreciate you. We really, really do. Thank you for spending some time with us today. And we honor that time. We honor your mindset. We honor your walk. We honor your faith. We honor many different things about you. And if this your, well, excuse me, we once again give all honor and praise to the Most High. We give all honor and praise to him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And we're thankful and grateful to everything that we're doing together as a community, as a diaspora. And today we're going to go ahead and get it in. So to the moderators, I thank you in advance. I think this is going to be a series. I started it off. I officially put it as a series on YouTube just to be obedient. I'm not sure where this goes. This has been coming through some stuff. But if it's your first time with us, or one time of many, we appreciate you on all the platforms, whether you join us on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, we appreciate you. Any questions, comments, or concerns you may have, feel free to go ahead and let them loose. Feel free to let us know exactly how you feel about something. We ask that you be aware that we're on a platform where if you say the wrong thing enough and it gets caught or something, we can get in trouble for that, or the fact that we have people of all ages that listen to this, or we just ask that you treat people as human beings. Respect is something that should be given. You don't have to earn my respect because of your humanity, because of you being Yah's creation. We will treat you with respect. We ask that you treat us with respect back. And if not, we do have moderators in place to make sure that they are looking at things that I myself oftentimes will miss. So, but we appreciate your presence. We just want to let that be known up front. Now that that's been said, we're going to be talking about today, the system is sus. This system is sus. And that'll be the series, I guess. And today, we're going to talk about there is a problem, because unfortunately, you have to establish problems, even though people can see oftentimes the same thing that you see, but you got to show people there is an actual problem. And for some reason, we have people that want to argue as if there's no problems, as if everything's okay, as if everything that the system that we've ever been taught is all right, as if there's no lies, as if everybody feels like they're getting the same stuff, as if all people get along, as if all degrees are giving everybody everything that they're supposed to give them, etc. Right? So unfortunately, I do have to start off, at least in the beginning, it might come off as kind of slow for some. However, if you're hanging there with me long enough, I think that you'll catch the value of us starting off with this foundational part of this, what we're going to go through. How you doing, everybody? Let's say hello real quick. Once again, if you're on Facebook, YouTube, or TikTok, we appreciate your presence so much. Thanks for being on. How you doing, Sister Marion, Sister Joy, Sister Nadine? I think I saw Sister Sharice on there, Brother Alton. How y'all doing? Aaron, Old Head Energy, Sister Elion, Sister Deborah, Romac, Create with Key. Hello. Feel like it's been a little while since I've seen you on. Maybe not, but glad to have you on. Sister Lori, Sister Rachel, Natural Sweetness. I got the sun right in my eye, so forgive me if I don't catch everything as I normally try to. I can't catch everything anyways. I'm not the most high, but I will do my best to try and catch as many questions, comments, concerns that come in the chat today. How you doing, Hidden? Amen. Amen. How you doing, Michael? How you doing, Me252? Everybody who's on, Sister Latoya, Doll I Am, Tay, Terry, how you doing? To everybody, we appreciate you. Is it? I don't know how to pronounce this with Abrea. Abrea faux fresh ear. I don't know if I said that anywhere close to what it is, but thank you for being on. Appreciate you. To everybody who's coming on, Lottie Die, everybody. If I missed your name, charge to my head and not to my heart. I think I see Takira. Is that on there as well? We're thankful to everybody who's coming on here. Deshaun Brown, how you doing? Jihad, um, El Roy, El Ruan Shakur, is it? Thanks for being on. So, and how you doing, Sister Deja? Um, so we thankful to everybody for being on. So today, once again, we're talking about the system. This system is sus. We're gonna start this. I don't know where this is gonna take us, but we're gonna start this today. The system is sus, and where we're gonna start today is there is a problem, and a lot of people don't want to talk about this. Right now, you doing, Marley? A lot of people don't want to talk about this, but this is real. Like the system is sus. And first things first, we have to actually acknowledge a problem. And people say, well, obviously there's a problem because it's not. No. Like there's a real problem because first and foremost, you think that the system, right? A lot of people think that the system can improve, right? And it can, but not in the sense that you think that you are. I'm sorry, Emmanuel, aren't pastor historian. I don't comprehend what I don't know if you could help me out a little bit with that. How you doing, Robin Barker? So a lot of people have to get to a place where first and foremost, you think that the system is supposed to improve, and it can improve, but it's not going to improve the way you think it is because your mindset is, if we just vote the right people in, the system will get better, right? See, we have a problem. How you doing, more Israel? How you doing, Sister Beverly? Shalom to everybody. Peace, Bakuta family, Barakallah, Sham Yechavah. Right? Look, our mindset is that if we would just get more people voted in, if we would just make sure that the schools were better, if we would just do, but you must recognize that the same person who's created the wicked system is the same person who created the school. How you doing, Sister Denise? How you doing, Mies? How you doing, Mimi? How you doing, Stephen? Amen. Right? You said you feel things have been invisible lately, and that's the thing. It's like they are. And I'm how you doing? Happy. A lot of these things are what we would call mysteries. But anybody that knows what a mystery is something that wants to be revealed. How you doing, One Love? And so you have these things that are mysterious to you, but they want to be revealed, right? Whether you think they do or not, right? Any serial killer, and just roll with me for a little bit. I know it seems like I'm all over the place, but just catch me for a second. I promise you, it's gonna all click in a second. How you doing, Sister Tracy? Any serial killer, deep game. Any serial killer, well, I won't say any. Most of these serial killers out here actually, at some point, want to be caught. This is not something I'm making up, by the way. People who study serial killers, many of them at some point want to be caught because they want you to know it's them. They know they can't do what they're doing anymore once they get caught. So they have this weird cognitive dissonance. They don't want you to stop what they're doing because they get a thrill out of it. But at the same time, they also at some point want you to look at them as being the smartest person in the room, right? At some point, they want you to believe that like nobody should be as infamous as they are. At some point, they want you to think that like they did this thing that nobody else could have done. They want you to think that their evil is righteousness in some way. They have a perverted mindset. They live in cognitive dissonance. At some point, most of them, 99% of them, even some statistics would tell you, but most of them want at some point for you to know what it is. Sometimes it's even guilt. And sometimes they know that what they're doing is wrong, but they want to get caught. But when people create evil, at some point, they start getting sloppy because either they think that you can't catch them, or they get sloppy because they want somebody to try and get to them at some point. Right? You can say narcissistic behavior. Now, I think we throw the term narcissist around a little much, but I agree with you that there's definitely narcissistic tendencies. We're talking about how you do Money Green, right? You know, but when you're dealing with wickedness, how you doing, Wendy? You got to realize that when you're dealing with this wickedness, the person that's wicked wants to put their signature on it, right? The person who nobody really knows for sure. There are many different things we can go through. I'm not going to go through them today, but when you're talking about people like Jack the Ripper, for example, nobody really knows who Jack the Ripper was, right? But even in not knowing who he was, there are certain things that we can tell these were the crimes he committed, and these are probably the ones that were copycats. Why? Because he put his signature on it. And even the wicked still want a signature. How you doing, Pamela? How you doing, Coco? How you doing, Sister Monica? Even the wicked put their signature on stuff. And you got to start recognizing and realizing that this wicked system, this disgusting system, this beast, if you will, this carnal mind, this thing that's wrapped that's wrapped in this enigma called wickedness, that is wrapped in the sheep, right? This wolf called wickedness is wrapped in the fleece of righteousness. It wants to be caught. It wants to be caught because the person that created this is not George Washington. We can tell you all the wickedness that George Washington did, that John Adams did, that Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, Adams, Jackson, etc. The cat from New York. I'm sorry, Van Buren, Polk, etc. We can tell you all that stuff. We can give it to you. We can show it to you, right? But they're not the ones that created this, right? Your presidents set precedents, but they are presidents of a corporation. The United States is a corporation, especially since 1933. You're not dealing with the same thing, right? You're not dealing with who you think. You think that the people who you're voting in are the people that are in control of the system. This is the real problem. The problem is not so much like, obviously it is problematic to have wickedness. Obviously it's problematic to have racism. Obviously it's problematic to have the haves and the have-nots. Obviously it's problematic. In this system, though, it's created to have that. How you doing, Kia? Thanks for being on. And Shongda, thanks for being on. Right? The problem is not what you think it is. How you doing, Divine Insight? We think that the problem is that wickedness abounds. Well, the reality is that the problem is more so that you are dealing. Hear what I'm saying? The problem is more so that you are dealing with people who think that the system is going to make you better. Okay. I know I said this is going to be, for some, you already know this stuff, so forgive me if I'm being highly repetitive. You heard this, you've been schooled on this, you learned this, you've read the books, you wrote the books, whatever. You got the t-shirt, burned it, all that stuff, whatever. Right? Okay. Question. Who created, hear what I'm saying. Who created school? Who created school? See, because I'm about to show you how we have a problem, because you're going to the wicked, asking for the wicked to continue what they've done. Who created school? And some of y'all have heard me talk about this before, so if you know this, feel free to go ahead and chime in, or just go ahead and guess, or go ahead and go off of what you're feeling, because we're probably going to all have a piece of this puzzle. But let's ask a question. See, because you having a conversation about school, and especially the school you go to nowadays. and you wanted to get better, but you have to ask yourself who created it, because if you know who created it, then you'll realize that it's not supposed to do what you think it is. The government, yes, in a sense. The Rockefellers, ooh, so that's secondary. They came up next. They took school to the next level. So yes, the Rockefellers, as far as what we know school to be today, and how it branches off, and how these degrees get you tied into the system, and basically it's like a prison to pipeline system, because you still got to pay taxes. Anybody that pays taxes is in debt. Anybody who's in debt pays taxes. So making you slaves, yes, great. The Rockefellers did that for sure, right? Oh, I'm sorry. Is it buffering for everybody on TikTok? I'm trying to use the signal that I got. Is it buffering for everybody on TikTok? Let me know. Can you guys hear me, see me okay on YouTube, Facebook as well? Is it buffering? Is it buffering on TikTok? No? Okay. Yes, no, maybe so. All right. Okay. So, all right. Whoever the person is, it might not be us then. It might not be TikTok. TikTok do be messing with us, but I don't want to blame them just for anything, even though they do the same thing to us, right? We don't do that. We stay honorable. But so peep game. All right. So peep game. All right. Thank y'all. Appreciate it. So peep game, right? Somebody said the Masons as well. I think I missed that. Peep game. You ready? The way you look at school today, the Rockefellers took it to the next level, but before the Rockefellers did it, it was Thomas Jefferson. Hey, Shalom, Dre. How you doing? As far as how you do school, now, did he get this from others? Did he get this from, the English and stuff like that? Sure. But remember, Thomas Jefferson is English. He was English before he became American. Remember, the original American is a copper colored person indigenous to the Americas. And before that, so the British, matter of fact, I don't even think they called him the British. Like when, what's his name, Paul Revere, who got captured that night, he didn't make the full ride. It wasn't even him. The other guy, there were three guys that rode out that night. One guy didn't really make it far at all. Might even been killed, but I know he didn't make it that far. Paul Revere got captured by the British, and then somebody else. So they would have called them the regulars, not the British, because they themselves were British. They were not Americans. Remember, they were not Americans. Americans were copper colored people indigenous to the Americas. So there was no British versus the Americans. The British were against the Americans, but the Americans were considered to be copper-colored people indigenous to the Americas, meaning that you had to be indigenous, Native American, to be an American. It wasn't until some British that didn't want to pay taxes because they wanted to keep their slaves, but didn't want to pay taxes because to pay taxes makes you a slave to somebody else. So rather than pay tribute or a tithe, right? What they would consider a tithe, right? To pay taxes to somebody else and make them in debt to somebody. They said, we'll go ahead and we'll take the scalps or the things we scalped off of other people, right? We'll put on blackface, we'll put their stuff on, we'll go ahead and throw tea off the side, and then we'll do this weird dances and stuff and do all the stuff they do today. And we'll call ourselves the Americans, and we'll say F the British, even though you're British. Imposters, right? That's how that happened, right? So you must recognize that yes, Thomas Jefferson was in fact British. He is in fact British, and not every, but most of these, using colonial and social constructs, most of these people who would consider themselves today to be white's not even really a color, by the way, if you know how color works. White is bright, the absence of color, reflection of color, or something you can see through. A snowflake does not have a color. You can see through it, and light reflects off it. Polar bear fur is not a color. It is see-through. It reflects the snow around it, right? Your white blood cells, they have no color. They are see-through. You can see through them, right? You see how the school system messes you up, where you're having conversations that you don't even need to have. You're having conversations about common sense, but you're supposed to be kings and queens. You don't think like commoners, right? But school takes you the opposite way. Thomas Jefferson said that these are Nigers, Nigers, these are Nigers, these are niggas, these are negus, right? This is what we were called where we came from. And he said that these people are kings and queens. We're going to take away who they are. I'm going to create a school system for them. So as they come over and are enslaved, they will learn to come away from themselves and do what we tell them to do. And we'll do the same thing simultaneously for the poor white people. We'll do the same thing for them as well. And we'll change how they think. And thank you, Wendy. I'm sorry I missed it. And that's sorry I saw your divine insight about the Rockefellers. Yeah. So we'll change how they think. This is what he said. We'll change how they think. We'll school them. Now, if you go back and look at the term school, it even gets close to the term skull. Skull is a place that what protects the brain. But also a skull is something that if you saw a skull by itself, you would think of it to be dead. See, when we start getting into this, we don't even think about where they get these terms from. But nevertheless, the skull supposedly protects the brain. So let's be nice today, right? I don't know where this series is going, but we have a problem because in this series, we're talking about the system is sus. And I must once again say thank you to everybody for being on. And if you're not used to seeing me on, I try my best to be bright and cheerful, and I try my best to make sure that I, as best as I can, show love and things like that, and to make sure that people are with us and make sure people don't feel like I'm coming at you. So hopefully you don't feel like I'm coming at you. Hopefully you don't get an angry vibe from me today. But we're going to talk about some real heavy stuff because you got a system that's sus. See, you go to school and you were taught that since you were young, since you were pretty much born, you got about 6 months. And then after about 6 months of life, everybody pressured your mom and started telling your daddy that they need to get you ready for something called preschool. In other words, before you even get to school, we need to start schooling you and start getting you used to going to a system. And the only reason why that pressure was put on you is because the same parent that is having the pressure put on them to make sure that they put you in the system is the same parent that had the system put on the pressure put on them to get you a birth certificate and make you a fake person, an artificial person. Mm-hmm. Right? It's the same thing, and they have to go and they have to work a fake job for a fake corporation, right? And get taxed by a fake corporation called the United States. 28 USC 300215A. That's United States code. It tells you that the United States is a corporation. If you look at the B section, it tells you that it's basically like a little board or something like that that's put together. If you look at the C section, it tells you it's nothing more than an instrument. But you don't live in a country, you live in a corporation. That's why you have a president. Any place where there's a president, you must have a corporation. Have you ever thought about that? Because presidents are not over nations, presidents are over corporations. So school is not designed for what you think it is. See, we have a problem. Your thing is, I need the school system to be better, but schools are designed by a slave owner. And later was adjusted in 1933 for a corporation. Right? And this is stuff that you never learn in school. Why? Because in school, anything that takes you out of the corporation that deals in chattel slavery, 13th Amendment still says that you're allowed to be a chattel slave. You just got to be arrested first. So anything that takes you and will put you into prison or into jail is something that you've been schooled for. Right? Why is it that you've been schooled on how to fill out a W-2, but you've never been schooled on a W-8-BEN? Schools existed before America was even built, sure. Matter of fact, if you want to talk about universities, but if we go back and look at societies, right, especially in our culture, right, because everything's always culture driven. So I'm going to talk about my culture, my tribe, my way of looking at things, right? The first universities don't even look like universities today. And you were supposed to train your children at home. Your children were supposed to learn about being a husband and wife from husbands and wives they saw in the house. Where your children learn about being a husband and wife now? They have a job just like you have a job. Your child spends just as much, if not more, hours a day in school than you do at work, at your job. Because a lot of us are not in our work, we're at our job. The job is to toil. The word job means to toil for somebody. The word work means to be in what you're called to do. And a lot of people are not there. Oh yeah, I homeschool mine as well, right? But most people even look down. For a while, people look down on those that were homeschooled, right? Even though homeschool children that didn't go to college, if they even need to, those homeschool children go to college, they do better than the other children do. Which means which means they have the ability to critically think. They have the ability to make sure to make proper decisions. They've already usually, a lot of their parents will have them go out and get jobs so that they'll be used to having a schedule, right? They get to travel and do stuff that other children don't get to do. My son, is doing stuff while traveling with his parents across the country. soon again across the world. It's been a little bit since we've been doing the world, but he gets to go cross country and still gets to learn every day and still gets to learn things and still gets to be a child and doesn't have to be somewhere for 8 hours, because even in the best schools in the world, for children, for elementary school children, they do not teach your children all day. The best places in the world that they teach children in Europe, since that's usually the barometer, is the Eurocentric viewpoint. The best results are gotten in places to where children might go to school 3 to 4 hours a day, maybe. If they feel like going to class, they go to class, and they never train them any more than like an hour at a time. And then they don't give them homework, because the child, just like any muscle in your body, needs a chance to recover, right? Your mind needs a chance to recover, right? So even in the world's version of school, you don't go to the best schools. Matter of fact, if you go into an accredited school, you didn't go to the best school. You know how I know this? Because the best schools in the world are not accredited. Yet television teaches them how to be husband and wife now. You said in Jamaica we have prime minister, so we're a country. I would say that Jamaica, especially when you talk about Jamaica, the fact that they won't let us. Well, I don't live there, but I have family there, right? They won't let us, build hospitals without permission from the British, and you can't necessarily own land the way you want and certain things. They're changing some of it, and you're still seeing people that are fighting, and literally, like, they had the thing where they I'm not saying it was right, but they had the fight where they killed Chinese people because some of the Chinese people were now basically trying to do modern colonialism, and Jamaicans weren't having it. So there's a lot of issues, I would say, come up on there for sure. You said, or were they trying to help them enjoy education? Who is them? And how you doing, Tom? If that's your way of saying hello. But who is them? Were they, and who is they? Are you saying that the people who created a wicked system to not teach the truth? Or are you saying that, like, who is they and who is them? And no shade. You can say whatever you like and challenge whatever you like. I just need to know. Right? I just don't I might have missed what you were saying earlier. Who is they and who is them? They is the children. The children created a system to teach them. I'm not sure. Because Thomas Jefferson told you why he created school. He didn't say anything about children. Matter of fact, he told you straight up. He said, look, this is a class thing. He said the slaves, they are going to be where they are, so we're going to train them to make sure that they do exactly what we tell them. He said there's going to be poor white folk. They're not going to be able to afford to go to school anyways. Well, I would say learn from yourselves. That's what I would say. I would say learn from yourselves. Oh, you might be talking about the homeschooling thing. I'm sorry, Tom. I'm all over the place. I'm looking at multiple platforms, so forgive me. I just wasn't catching it, but thank you for being on. Appreciate you. Right. So So you got to realize and recognize that you're dealing with, like, a system that's not there. People say, where do we go? I'm saying, why do you think that you should learn from somebody who's not going to teach you about you anyway? And this is not just a Afrocentric thing. This is not an Israelite thing. This is not a biblical thing. This is not uh, white people are evil thing, because I just told you the color white doesn't even exist anyway. Somebody had to create that for you. They taught you that in school. I know a lot of y'all don't believe that, but you actually learn white and black and all that in school. Somebody schooled you on white, black. The same people who school you on paying taxes, except in school, they didn't school you on that. They taught you to just go with the flow. Isn't it interesting that in school, you were never taught about law? Do you not find that a little weird? That you can get pulled over because you broke a law, right? But they never taught you about law. Is it weird that you have to have a license? Just hear what I'm saying. We have a problem. I'm just trying to introduce a problem. You see what I'm saying? Because praise y'all. Look. You have to have a license to be able to do hair, supposedly, right? Even though you can get your hair done on the end, but you take your chance. But you got to be licensed to do hair. You got to be licensed to cut hair. You got to be licensed to ink, to get tatted, or to tat somebody up, to ink somebody up. All right, Sister Monica, you be safe, right? You got to have a license to be married. But in all the other things I just mentioned, right? You have to go through training. When marriage, where's your training come from? How you doing, Brother Jermaine? Prison tats are free. I mean, I guess, but you ain't free when you're getting them. So either way, you gotta be licensed, right? You gotta sign in to get to prison, so that therefore you can go ahead and get tatted, right? And hope that somebody know what they're doing. A lot of times they do well in there, right? But you hear what I'm saying? We got a lot of people talking about this stuff, but hear what I'm saying? Don't you? You got to be licensed to go all this stuff, but to get a marriage license, you can just do that like this. You can go down to the courtroom today. Some states you can just go down today and get married. You don't have to prove nothing. You don't have to see how you're doing, Ryan. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to see anything. You don't have to know anything. How you doing, brother Ali? How do you, Michelle? Right? You don't have to show that you're a husband already. You don't have to show that you're a wife. See, in our culture, you got to be pre-qualified for marriage. Why don't they teach you that in school? In our culture, sex is marriage and marriage is sex. And by the way, the country agrees with you, your state agrees with you, because if you get married, if you walk down the aisle and go through the ceremony, but you don't consummate the marriage, y'all can go ahead and get the whole thing annulled. Correct? You might not know that because you didn't study law, but they don't teach you that stuff. Why? Because school is not designed to give you your best self. School is designed to make sure that you just are fed into a system. The same bell that's used at school to indicate it's time to go to the next class is the same bell they're going to use at the warehouse. And the same bell that they use at school to say indicate it's time to go to the next class is the same bell they're going to use to say, hey, it's time to come out your prison cell for a hot second. Now it's time to go back in. Right? And the same, they're schooling you. It's not changing. The same way that you're supposed to sit with the cool kids, right? We don't believe that children are baby or a child is a baby goat, but nevertheless, the same way they teach your kids at school to make sure that they eat with the cool kids and know their place is the same way they're going to do it in prison. It's the same way you're going to do on your lunch break. You said universal job training for those that want jobs, but for those that want to be in their work, right? Like they're not training you for that. Even universal law is something that people don't know the difference. But they don't even tell you there's a kingdom law, marital law, universal law, natural law, law of attraction law, first mentioned, remedial law, procedural law, public law, private law, common law, admiralty law. Same thing sometimes, most of the time is maritime law, law of equity. And we're gonna go to the same school system. We got a problem because you're going to go to the same school system that's teaching you to be funneled into a wicked system. And you're going to say, why aren't you teaching my child better? They're not supposed to teach your child better. How you doing, Austin? Yeah, these are things that we don't think about. How you doing, off grid? Right? Like they're not teaching your child to be better. They're not teaching you to have a kingdom sense. You're supposed to have the sense of a commoner. They call it common sense. They get mad when kingdom shows up. They get mad, right? You don't even realize you're not even in a democracy. You learned all this stuff, supposedly, about the American system. Question for you, in school, how many times did they teach you about the Constitution? And if they did, they only mentioned probably the First Amendment. Maybe because of political stuff going on, they mentioned the second one. And then you maybe learned about the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, and they lied to you about those. Maybe they told you about, what is it, the 18th, forgive me, sisters, is the 18th, 19th Amendment, the one suffrage rights? And maybe they mentioned about how alcohol was allowed to come back in. Maybe they talked about those. Maybe they talked about the Fifth Amendment and how it goes with the Sixth Amendment, if you even know what those are. Everybody knows I plead the Fifth, but do you know that the Sixth Amendment also allows you to ask the judge questions? Because you can ask questions and you don't have to understand anything, because to understand anything means that you are standing under it. So you should not understand everything. You can comprehend some things, but not understand them. So the judge says, do you understand? No, I don't understand. I comprehend, but I don't understand. They'll get upset with you because what you're telling them nicely, honorably, is, Your Honor, I choose not to be under you. You are not above me. You are not the ultimate judge. Matter of fact, you're not even a real judge, depending on what kind of courtroom I'm in. You might just be in a priestly robe, and you might work for the legislative branch. If you work for the legislative branch, even if you are a judge, you're still supposed to work for me if I'm considered to be a people. But a lot of us don't even know the difference between a person and a people. See, if I'm saying some of this stuff and you're not even keeping up, you might not be keeping up because you don't know there's a problem. It's problematic that I'm speaking in law right now, and some of you felt like I might have started speaking a whole bunch of gibberish. A person can be a corporation. You're absolutely right. And every corporation is a person. But that's an artificial person. If you're a natural person, you can't be a corporation. So some people become corporations, or like we talked about the other day, some people will be a person who also carries a person. Some people will have a corporation that they use to be in the system but not of it. But you always got to know how to apply it. Because a lot of y'all are a corporation 24/7. We talked about that with the checks the other day. We showed y'all a picture of it, right? To where a lot of you sign on the dotted line, so you think, or you sign on the line to sign your checks, not realizing that you're actually authorizing on a contract on a place where it's not a line. It says NP. That means it's microprint. That means you got to pull out a magnifying glass of some type to be able to see what's actually on that line that you think is a line. And when you read it, you'll discover, wait a minute, it says authorized signature. So whatever I'm signing is authorizing, but your name you're signing is your real self, your capital letter first name, and then the rest of your name, your capital letter of the last name, first letter, and then everything else is lowercase, right? And therefore, when you write that out, what happens? When you write that out, what happens? What happens is what? You're authorizing, your real person is authorizing that your fake person in all caps can go ahead and do business with the bank, right? You're talking about currency that's flowing with the bank, a river bank, and you're literally saying that you as a real person are saying that the person that was birthed, right? A lawful term, a legalese term, talking about the person that wasn't born but was birthed. Ships are birthed, right? You have a port and everything. So you're simply reporting, you're rechecking in and saying it's okay, go ahead and treat my fake person with the respect that you treat my real person with. Right? Like these are things, I'm not coming up with anything that's fake. I'm coming up with what's factual. And for some reason, we've been told to believe the lie and act like the lie is okay. How you doing? Unpopular opinion, right? So I'm just saying this series is gonna be something that's gonna mess with some people because I didn't even know this is gonna be a series. I didn't know I was talking about this until basically early this rising, when I've been. Some of y'all know I can't talk about all the details, but I've been going through it, right? Physically, emotionally, spiritually, I've been all right, but physically, emotionally, like I've been going through some stuff, right? I'm gonna make it through. I have made it through. Praise God. I'm just saying I've been going through some stuff. And you know what caused me to really like go into this and start studying this? And I had to text Minister tonight because I wanted to be on the prayer line real bad today. I need it. So I was like, I'm gonna come on there and I'm gonna just put myself out there. I'm not gonna put all the stuff because some of the stuff is not for y'all to know. But I was like, I'm gonna put the stuff out there and let it be known, this and that. And I looked down at my phone and I get a text, and one of the texts is from a brother that's doing some time for something he didn't do. Y'all will find out more information about him in a little bit, because we're gonna make sure we try our best to put his story out there and help him as best we can. Starting off with some of the people that are down where he is, and then try to grow some stuff or whatever. But we call and check on each other. Been talking for probably about a month, 2 months, something like that now, and he sends me a message out the blue and basically with exactly what I needed to hear, talking about like, I don't know what's going on, man, but I was praying and I felt you in my spirit, and I need, I just want you to know, man, you're doing a great work. This, that, boom, boom, writes me this nice little message. And it got me to thinking, like, he's in prison with more spiritual sense than some of us out here that are free. Like, and I'm not saying, because a lot of y'all checked on me, stuff like that. I appreciate all of them, right? I'm just saying this brother's text hit me because of the place that he was. I'm not saying none of y'all didn't hit me. I'm just hear what I'm saying. He sent that thing, doesn't even share the same religiosity, right? Doesn't have the same canon, right? That we carry. But he had a message for me that I need. And I said to myself, he in a dark place, been there for years, for something he didn't do. In a dark place, was speaking light, that I needed, and literally had just finished talking to somebody about, hey, I need, like, somebody in my life who can just be able to, as a brother, can just kind of come in there and every once in a while say what I need to hear. And out of nowhere, he became that thing that I needed. I was like, dang, you know? Um, and it got me, and then I started praying right there on the spot. I said, Minister Nice text. I was like, this is just going to be a personal prayer session. And out of it, I started just hearing over and over again, the system is sus. The system is sus. Like, this system is sus. That man has more sense about the kingdom than those that claim to be free. Yeah, that connection even to the soul. How you doing, Reginald? Right? Like the system is sus. When our babies can't do that. You hear what I'm saying? like the system is sus. I started thinking about it. I was like, man, this is why. And I just started going through, and I was trying to find the scripture I was going to go into today. I was trying to make sure that I was going to talk about that. I was going to talk about righteousness. I was going to talk about that, and all I could hear is the system is sus. And first thing I heard from Ravak Hakodesh was, you got to introduce the fact that there's a problem. How you doing? JG. Excuse me, JIG. I forget how to pronounce it. Or I don't know how to pronounce it. Excuse me. How you doing, Sherry? Right? And the system is sus. Like, you live in a system that tells you that we're not even supposed to know what our identity is, but somehow we're supposed to identify problems. Can you not see like the school system? The same people that you're saying teach our children better has told you that you're not supposed to know who you are. Whether you want to talk about male versus female, or cis or non-cis, or binary, non-binary, you're not supposed to know who you are. You're not supposed to know whether we're talking about race. Race doesn't exist. Only the human race. Problem is, though, is that the school system, as long as it teaches evolution, has to teach about race, because evolution, the way they teach it, is coming from Darwin's principles. That's why you have to learn about Charles Darwin. And Charles Darwin wrote his stuff based off of Carl Linnaeus. Carl Linnaeus is somebody who's supposed to be the person who introduced race. At first, race was supposed to be, because race means a competition, right? On your marks, get set, go, right? That's a race. And the race is supposed to be a competition. And at first, the competition was supposed to be about animals. So there were animal races. See, when you say there's a human race, you're saying you're on the level of an animal, but you weren't taught that. That's why they treat you in law like an animal, because you have decided to be in a race that's not yours. I'm not in competition with an animal, and I'm not in competition with another human being. You see that? See, but you like sports races. See, you've been geared from birth. I don't like that Washington football team. Y'all used to call them another derogatory term or whatever it is now, with the Washington Commanders or whatever. I don't like the Commanders because I'm from Dallas. And in Dallas, we don't like the Commanders. Why? Just because they're on another team. If that's your thought process with sports, it's not going to take that much for me to tweak that and make that your thought process with what you call race. And for those that don't believe me, look up Charles Darwin's book, by the way, because I know some of you might be thinking, oh, he's just making stuff up. Look up Charles Darwin's book. Here's the title of it. It's called The Origin of Species, The Theory of Evolution. Or I'm sorry, they don't use that part anymore. But if you look it up, written in 1859, Charles Darwin's book, The Origin of Species, by means of natural selection or the survival of favored races in the struggle for life. And it's backed up by kingdom society, by royalty, by the geological society, and backed up by Linnaean doctrine. The same Carl Linnaeus I just said introduced race to y'all. It took it from animals and then made people races that came from different animals. And Charles Darwin took it to the next level. So when you learn about Charles Darwin in school, they give you Charles Darwin. They never mention that, but you can't talk about Charles Darwin without talking about a racist undertone. It has to be there because that's what he wrote the book about. And it was a religious book, by the way, because Charles Darwin himself, as much as he wants to tell you he's a scientist, he never got a degree in being a scientist. He got a degree in being a preacher. He came from a family of preachers. He preached. That was his belief system. How you doing, Sister Patricia? You see what I'm saying? That was his belief system. You out here talking about, oh, no, it's just school, it's just science. That was his belief system. That's religion. And his cousin, right, who was the brother of his wife, which means that Charles Darwin married his own cousin. Okay. You can see the family already got some weird values and stuff going on. His cousin, his younger cousin, liked what he wrote and said, you know what, big cuz, you know what, big bruh? I got you, cuz. I'm going to come up with something based off of your writings. You're a hero in my eyes. And he writes out something, and you call it now, eugenics. So if it's not for Charles Darwin, then you don't have races that come from animals. because that's what he wrote about it, that how different races came from different animals. It's the struggle of it's the survival of favorite races and the struggle for life. That's part of the book. But why don't you know the whole thing? How you doing, Miss Hibiscus? Why has nobody ever told you the entire title? Why has nobody ever said this is it in its entirety? This is the name. This is what it's called. Because they don't want you to know that. If they wanted you to know, they just tell you the truth. Why don't they tell you the truth in school? Right? But see, you've been trained. We have a problem because your mindset starts off with that all this stuff is innocent, or even the stuff that's happened is a mistake, or even if people felt a certain way, everybody innocently is thinking. But if everybody's having innocent thoughts, you tell me. You tell me what you think it is. All right. If that's your way of saying hello, how you doing now? Right. So if that's your way of saying everybody, like a lot of y'all think that everything is innocent. And thank you, the other movie bum. How you doing? Right. But this is not innocent thought. Just because you're ignorant of something doesn't mean you're having an innocent thought. And we got to stop this. We got to stop this mindset. Just because you're ignorant of something does not mean you're having an innocent thought. It's going to mess you up. But we got to teach correct. We got to get this etymology correct. How you doing, Blissful? How you doing, Fun for Fans? We got to get this thing corrected. Whether they like it or not, we got to put some truth out, because your child will not learn this at school. You will not learn this at school. Going back to what I said, if you go to an accredited school, every school that is accredited means that you have to come back to the mean. Sometimes it might mean you have to rise up to the mean, but you got to go to the mean. The mean is the average. How you doing, Sister Marcia? Right? The mean is the average. I don't want to know the average, because the average person doesn't know the truth. Did you catch that? I'm not trying to teach you the average or the mean, because the accredited, because the accredited is average. I can't reveal truth to you if you want to stay average. If you want to just be like everybody else and just do what everybody else does and go to the same job that everybody else goes, and send your children to the same schools that everybody else does, and listen to the same music that everybody else does, and not have a business like most people don't have, and have to check in like most people do, and have to pay taxes like most people do, and have to pray the way that most people do, and have to argue about Republican versus Democrat like most people do, you're never going to learn the truth. I'm sorry if I come off with an attitude today, but I'm passionate about this. I've been going through some things too, or maybe I just need to get some things off my chest. I don't know, but I'm not going to preach me on here today. I promise I won't. But I just need you to know, right? Like, I can't give you stuff because the accredited person has an accredited mind. If the accredited person has an accredited mind, they have an average mind. If the average mind is trying to have a truthful conversation, then you can't talk the truth, because average is the mean. I got to give you just as much lies. It's got to average out. I got to give you just as much lies as I do truth. See, I don't want to be balanced in my approach. I want to be unbalanced. I want so much truth that the lie comes off the screen. But y'all have been taught to keep it average. Give us just as many lies as you give truth, and we'll try to figure it out from there. But it's time for you to come out of an average mentality. Let me speak to me for a second. Kofi, it's time for you to come out of an average mentality, because you can't speak the truth, and you can't help people, and you're not gonna make it through your situations if you're gonna keep trying to be average. So I can't do average no more, even if it means that they don't want to cut me off. They just gonna have to cut me off. Moderators, I appreciate y'all, fam, but I'm sorry to put more work on you, but it is what it is, right? Like, I can't be average. I can't do it anymore. You hear what I'm saying? Like, I can't. It's getting hard. It's getting hard to deal. The only stuff that's messing me up from my past is stuff that I did that was average, because I have to keep coming back down to be able to stop. I have to stop going up to be able to come back down to deal with something when I should have only dealt with moving up. You can do better than that. That's a simple one. That's low hanging fruit. WWE stuff, do better than that, right? Do better than that, right? Like, you gotta take the trolling to the next level. But you see what I'm saying? Like, even the trolls on here be coming off average. Like, you got to be better than that. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't even have a problem with trolls. If trolls are creative, I give credit where credit's due. But if you average as a troll, come on now, take it to the next level, right? But everything you got to recognize, right? But that also means, even hear what I'm saying. If you're going to come out this system, you got to come out this system, because and that means if you're going to come out, that means you're not going to deal with the average troll. You said average today is not yesterday's averages. Okay. But every day I'm trying to be above average. So that means every day I got to keep excelling. Whichever way you want to put it. I guess we're saying the same thing. Right? So the body is full of healthy cells doing their own thing, then one admits a cancer. Yeah. Right? But then that means your eating habits got to be above average so that it doesn't even get a chance to spread, right? Too much oxygen will not even allow for sickness. That alkaline piece is real. Right? You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people, yeah, are doing like what Lot's wife does. We got to keep looking back, because we're looking back to average. Like, and look, your average. See, once again, I'm not here to say anybody's wrong. I don't have a heaven or hell to put anybody in. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. I don't care if you're African or black or Afro-American or African American or Negro or indigenous or Melanesian or melanated or Kemetic or whatever. And I actually carry tribe stuff, so I know what it is to be Kemetic. I know what it is by family, by blood, to be Yashrael. I know what it is to be Shwe. I know what it is to be Anakitaboya. I know what it is to be Tisalagi. I know what it is to be Cherokee. I know what it is. I know what those things are, right? But I'm saying, like, a lot of people don't even know. Like, when it comes to your culture, a lot of people on average don't know their culture. The average person doesn't know where they come from. Can you see there's a truth? Or a lack of truth? If you don't know who you come from, I said where. Who? Because see, your birth certificate mentality says you need to know where you come from, right? But your actual birth, or actually who you're born from, says you need to know who you come from. What is your language? Why do you only speak the language of those who are not for you? How you doing, Jackson? Thanks for being a part of the community. You hear what I'm saying? What? Why is it that you only go to places and you want a school system to be better that's going to teach you English, le français, Espanol, Mandarin, Latin, right? German. But you're not going to learn anything about Mali, Timbuktu, right? Ghana. I'm talking about ancient Ghana. All three basically the same place. You have no recollection of that. You have no recollection, fine, of Haudenosaunee. That's Iroquois. You have no recollection of Gullah or Gola, depending on what part of the diaspora you are. You have no recollection of Seminole or Foot or Creek, right? Why is that? Why is it that the average person doesn't even care about who they come from, but they want to argue about where they come from? I heard somebody the other day, and I didn't. The brother was talking about how, that there's no such thing as a black Mexican, because this, that, or whatever, because Mexico is not a race or whatever. But a black person is not a race either, because a race is dealing with animals, a competition between animals, right? And a Mexican is part of a fake corporation. So a Mexican ain't real either. So what are you talking about? But see, this person, a lot of people thought that was deep. That's not deep. You coming from a world, a system that's shaped by a spiritual place, a spiritual wickedness in high places that you have no clue about. That's a person out there that doesn't know who he's from and is arguing over it. He's arguing over where he's from rather than who he's from. Who you're from is bigger than Mexican or black, for real, for real. Black is black. I'm using it colonial construct. Black can be an indicator of where one comes from. I can tell that I come from my daddy. Part of the reason is that I share my daddy's color. If I didn't have any melanin whatsoever, I could be somebody who, I was born with issues with melanin, right? Or whether it's albinoism or something close to it, or straight up being albino. But also, if I came out and right, if my mom and my daddy got together and I don't got none of my daddy's color at all, I mean, something, usually people start looking around kind of strange. You know why? You know why? Because people are sitting up there like, hey, I want you to know. Hey, I want you to know straight up. Right, right. People act like this stuff doesn't matter, but you've been schooled in the wrong way. Just it's an indicator, but it doesn't mean that's who I'm from because not all skin folk is kinfolk in two different ways. Not all people care about who I am just because they're black, number one. But also, there's a lot of people that look like me that ain't got no blood with me either. What'd you say? Compulsory public education doesn't lead to critical analysis. Yeah, and it's not supposed to. Because watch this. This stuff that we're taught in school, the public knowledge that you're talking about, and even some of the people are getting private knowledge as well. You got to still be careful. Just because you get private knowledge doesn't mean it's always better, right? But those that are being publicly educated, we must also recognize that if we're going to talk about the public education, let's be honest, the public education is not supposed to deal in critical thinking. Why? Because you don't critique the public, because the word public means government. So I don't critique the government. That's why a lot of y'all don't do. That's why a lot of y'all are afraid to critique your pastors. People get weirded out when I, as a pastor, will say, "Ask me questions." They say, "Ask you questions." I'm like, "Ask as many as you want." Why? Why not? But I wasn't raised in a system that said that you don't question pastors. Matter of fact, your Bible says that you should question. Try every spirit to see it is if it is of Elohim. If it's not of him, then you should then you should leave. See, that's education. That's why a lot of your public schools teach like your regular schools because they're part of the same system. Oh yeah, 501c3. That means you belong to something. You said there's one speaking in spiritual tongue, a language that you can claim. I mean, it would be a heavenly language, but even the speaking in the tongue, what's the tongue for? It just simply, right? It connects you to the king. But the tongue is not something that means like, because you can't talk to people in tongues. You can have somebody interpret it. But tongues also too, tongue can also mean that you speak another language. Simply. How you doing, Latoya Chitney? How you doing? We got a lot of sister Latoyas on nowadays. Praise God. So I'm just saying, like, even the churches run because where do you send your preachers to get their education? Do they get educated in church? Which, by the way, I think is dangerous nowadays too, because churches don't really read the word that they say that they subscribe to, anyways. But your preachers aren't sent. Are don't watch this. Your preachers are not what we would call an apprentice. Now, in our culture, right, you should do whatever your daddy does. At 7 years old, if you're a boy, your daddy is the master, the teacher, and you are his apprentice. So daddy teaches the son. We don't do that nowadays. They've created a system where there's no time for that. The average person doesn't teach their own child. We look down upon those that teach their own children because we look down upon those that aren't average. Right? So you send them to the public. You send them to seminary school. You send them to theocratic. What is it? Public school, Bible college, theocratic. Sorry, seminary. I'm going back to Jehovah's Witness thing in my mind. But you send them there. How you doing the truth? You're not sending them to make sure that they're an apprentice. Who, if your pastor is worth their salt, who better to learn from than the pastor? Why would the minister not learn under the pastor? Or why would the minister not want to learn under the pastor? It doesn't make sense. See, even in your biblical culture, right? You sat at the feet of your father. In this system, though, they get rid of fathers, or they tell you that they're not relevant. So why would you want a boy to sit at the feet of his father? Matter of fact, in our culture, you would be trained to be a husband and a father and would have to be authorized to do so before you even got your inheritance and then found your wife. And once you found your wife, you'd have to come back to the families and to the society, and we would have to approve that both of y'all were ready for each other. Nowadays, you skip all that. You just go straight down the aisle. You walk down the aisle, you say, "Hey, girl." You walk down the aisle, "Hey, girl." The girl sitting there on the sideline, "My marriage is better than this." It's become a competition. It's become a weird place. The husband just sitting there at the end next to the preacher, right? Just looking stupid, not even knowing what he's there for. He's just supposed to sit there and look. He's supposed to be a handsome fool. That's all he's supposed to be. He's just looking like a handsome fool. That's all he's supposed to do. He's not trained up on nothing. He ain't ready for nothing. He ain't ready to give no affection. Nobody told him about love languages. He never read Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. He doesn't know what Ephesians 5:22 and 25 actually mean, and that they're talking about somebody who's actually espoused or not espoused yet, but they're betrothed rather. He don't know nothing. He's a fool. Is it not foolish to get into any kind of relationship and not know what you're supposed to do in the relationship? Is that not foolish? Yeah, fathers matter. How you doing, Minister Knight? You know what I'm saying? Is it not a fool? Would it not be foolish? Would it not be foolish for you to be hired to be over a corporation making billions of dollars a month, and you can't keep up with your you can't live, you live paycheck to paycheck? Isn't that foolish? You said white is the most color, black is the absence of color. Yeah, because you're talking about the whole black and bleach and bleak and all that in the 1800s and the dictionaries that people changed the stuff in the definitions, by the way. But black is not something that was in our culture and in our language. Now, if you want to look at the term Negro, which is really weird, we do the Western thing. Now, if we're going by Western law, Western people don't like black people, right? So therefore, anything that was black, but then when they started trying to take over, just like in definitions, right? I just talked about this earlier. You might just be coming on. In definitions, if we're talking about an American used to be qualified, in order to be qualified as an American by definition, you had to be a copper colored person indigenous to the Americas. Right now, we wouldn't think of an American as even being a color. We would think of it, but to be an American, you had to have a certain color. Just like even to be a Moor, which I am a Moor, right? But if we're talking about a Moor, now this thing is becoming a more faith or more religion, right? If you're talking about a Moor, are you talking about somebody from Morocco? Are you talking about somebody that was from Spain at a certain time? Are you talking about somebody who was a Moorish king in England? Are you talking about somebody who was in Croatia, right? Are you talking about somebody who was a Muslim? Are you talking about somebody that was an Afro? Are you talking about somebody that was this, that, whatever, right? Moors can be in many different things, whatever. Are you talking about, right, all this stuff? But if you're talking about Negro is one of the most ancient ways of saying black, like what people think, or you're trying to say white, right? But it's one of the most ancient ways of saying black that there is. So if I'm talking about a Negro, then yeah, I got to go all the way back to a Negro, because guess what? Way before the Moors that started having their kingdom over in the 700s, which technically was further back than that, you got to go back to the Moors that existed before the Moors, called the Carthaginians. The Carthaginians go back to a time of even having people before them that had no problem, Northern or even Western African, calling themselves what? Calling themselves, I know you want to go the Asiatic route. I'm going back ancient, right, to where all this stuff came out of in the first place. And they had no problem being called Negroes. And they were the ones that taught the Spanish how to speak. Because remember, the people of Spain didn't have a country, right? The people who we call the people of Spain now, they didn't have a country. They weren't a people until 1491. They had to defeat the last Moorish king. So we taught them the word Negro, and Negro meant us. It meant people of color. It meant people who had the same color as the sands of Kemet or Kemet. That's what Kemet means. Kemetstry literally is the study of the people that are as black as the sands, the study of the melanated people. Well, chemi is talking about black. So this whole thing of changing it, yeah, if you want to go off of a new modern system, then yeah, okay, they're trying to tell you now in the 1800s only. If you notice, it was only a specific time that started happening. They weren't doing it in the 1600s. They weren't doing that in the 1200s. They weren't doing that back before Christ, or if you want to say before Common Era. They're doing that now, right? But you've been schooled in such a manner, and we got to be careful, because now if I talk about school, why am I going to use his books, right, the oppressor's books, as the barometer to tell me what's black and what's white, when before the oppressor existed, I was the teacher? He says, is being Kemetic pagan? No, pagan is being pagan. Being Kemetic is being Kemetic. Now, are both of them things that we would say are against the belief system of those that carry the Bible as their canon? Yeah, both of them would be against it. But pagan doesn't just mean non-believer, right? That's something else that's happened, right? Pagan or Gentile becomes this thing of, well, if you just don't believe. That's not true. A Gentile person is a person who's Gentilic, or somebody who comes from a family that's related closely in blood to gens people. But gens and Gentilic people, pagan is a religious belief. So pagan belief system was something that has a whole bunch of different things, but it's not something that's anti-Bible. Now, when you get into Christianity and Christianos, and a lot of Christian schools, right? A lot of Christian type schools, then what do? You mix and match a bunch of different stuff together. That's what the word Christianos originally meant. Well, not all polytheism is paganism. If you're Indian, but you deal in polytheism, if you're dealing with Hindu, right? Hinduism is polytheism, but the Hindu is not a pagan, and the pagan is not a Hindu. you know. But once again, we do this stuff because we're so busy. We've been taught to separate more so off of when you're a threat to somebody's stuff. Because let's keep it a buck. If you believe that you're supposed to be in a democracy and at the same time be in the United States of America, you're in the I wouldn't call it, I guess, I would technically call it polytheism if you know about your father gods, the father of your nation, George Washington, the obelisk, all that stuff, whatever, right? But but you're in the poly whatever, you're in the double-mindedness because you know the United States of America, right in the Constitution, democracy is not in your Constitution. So how can you be in a democracy? I'm not trying to come at anybody. Hopefully nobody's taking it that way, right? But how can you be in a democracy? A democracy is not even in your Constitution. How you doing, Tori? Democracy is not even in your Constitution. How can you be in a democracy that's not even constitutional? You see, we have a problem. Somebody taught you something that doesn't add up. Hey, come on, right? Somebody teaching us something that don't add up, right? The math ain't mathing. The math ain't mathing. Somebody taught me something that doesn't make any sense. How am I in a democracy that's not a democracy? And even if I am in a democracy, peep game, a democracy is a democracy. If somebody hands you a demo of anything, if somebody gives you a demo, a demonstration, but a demo of anything, what is that? That's a small amount of something. Now, if you look up the word demo for real, you're going to deal with a small amount, a group of people that live in a village, right? And then cressy means government. So that means that a small group of people who give you only a small amount of information or a small amount of whatever, right? Who live together in a village, they govern you with that. That's what democracy means. So technically, you could say maybe you are in a democracy. Question is, why do you want that? Hey, how you doing? I am Turtle. Thanks for being part of the community. I must ask. The next question I got to ask is, why would you want to be in a place or in something that is a small group of people that give you a little bit of information that live together and govern you by it? And if you don't believe it, I've been there, done that. So has my wife. Been there, done that. To where we've seen all the battles that happen up in the Senate building, and y'all love all the stuff that's going on in C-SPAN and this and that, and how the Democrats versus the Republicans, and they go underneath to eat. If you ever been there, they eat on the bottom. They eat, they go downstairs to eat. And when they eat, they all eat together and they congratulate each other. Man, you know what? You was looking you was looking dope on that, man. Or you know what? Like, look, you know how it is. I got to do this on television, but you know, we straight. Okay, cool. You know what? Our children got to do blah, blah. We straight for them to be able to see. Yeah, okay, no problem. All right. Well, I'll see you up there in a little bit. Then they go back up in there and hate each other. And y'all think that that's real. Y'all think that's real. Y'all think for real, you think that Mitch McConnell hated Barack Obama? You think that's real? You think Barack Obama really can't stand Trump? Y'all thought he couldn't stand Bush, and y'all come to find out, y'all saw that Bush and Michelle play that whole thing to remind you of where Obama comes from, because y'all thought Obama grew up without a daddy, not realizing that his stepdaddy is George Soros. Right? But nobody taught you critical thought, critique, because in school you're not supposed to be critical. This is why anybody who's critical of teachers. Now, look, I'm not saying our children should be outright disrespectful of teachers. Teachers have a hard job, and they themselves are ignorant to what a lot of this stuff is. They're just doing what they told, and they're doing the best they can, and a lot of them are doing things that parents aren't out here doing. Salute, right? For real, salute to those teachers that are out here. But real talk, right? I'm not trying to tell you to have disrespectful children, but teachers get upset with children when the children don't listen. And a lot of times they don't even think about the fact that the children aren't listening because they're critiquing, they're critical. Yeah, and critical thinking is fundamental. And this is the problem. The school is not designed for the person who critiques. Your churches are not designed for the people who critique. Your mosques are not designed for the people that critique. Your temples are not designed for people that critique. All these places are designed for people who bow down. Can you see we have a problem? Yeah, that's why they do the candy thing and all that. Yeah. Can you see there's a problem? Right? The system is sus. The system is sus. Have you ever thought about the fact that you love to build up people so that you can go ahead and tell them that they're terrible? But you think you just do that on your own, or that's just part of some weird movement, right? Or some kind of weird mobocracy or something like that. No, no, no. You you do that because the system taught you to do that. They build up certain people to do certain things, and then when the people might become a threat to the system, they begin to tell them that they're terrible. Oh yeah. Yeah, hence voting is a waste of time, could be voting. Yeah, for real it is. Because it's not changing anything. It's not changing anything. Right? But I'm just trying to tell you, right? Like you have this weird fascination. You've been taught this weird philosophy, and we're gonna break it today, whether you like it or not. We're gonna challenge it today. We're gonna critique it today. We're gonna critique. We're gonna critique this weird fascination that you have, right? That you think. Uh, hold on for a second. I'm sorry. I'm losing where I was. Uh, uh, uh. I'm sorry, y'all. Forgive me. Where was I at? Where was I at? Oh, when you raise people up. Thank you, Holy Spirit. You had this weird thing that makes you believe that people were just raised up randomly, right? And no. Like they chose who they rose. And when people go down, it's because they became somebody who either challenged the system or they thought to themselves, what if these people could ever challenge the system? Look at your canon, right? If you're in the biblical faith, or even if you're into the Torah or Tanakh, etc., right? Or even if you're Muslim to a certain degree, right? Look at your faith. Look at your belief system. Why is it that the Israelites were enslaved by those who were Kemetic? That was their own family. Why did they enslave? Catch my drift. Why did they enslave? They enslaved them. Did they enslave them because they were bad people? Did they enslave them because they were not family? Did they enslave them because they did something that was worthy of being imprisoned? They enslaved them because they said, what if these people ever realized that they could take over us? They could just take over. That's why. They simply said, what if? I'm not talking about the curses. I'm talking about why did they have in their mind it was okay? The people who did the enslaving, why did they have it in their mind that it was okay to enslave you? They said, what if they ever became? I'm talking about Kibbut. I'm talking about, right? Exodus, right? How you doing, Iska? They said, what if these people ever became? The enemy looks at you and says, what if you ever realized who you, what if you ever thought your language was important enough to learn? What if you ever, this is Willie Lynch stuff, what if you men went back to being husbands? Or what if you women went back to being wives? He said that's the anomaly that would break the system. They're not concerned about you looking the way you look. You got this thing messed up. They don't want you, they're not concerned about your looks. They're concerned about your looks are attached to your culture. See, you've been taught, see, why did they start saying, when, look at this, peep game. Who made Michael Jackson famous? Let's hit some of these real hard. That's gonna make some people really upset. Who made Michael Jackson famous? First and foremost, let's keep it a buck. It was his daddy. His daddy had him in strip clubs and everything like that. You want to blame the system and blame this first of all, look at his daddy. His daddy was pimping out his little boys, had his little boys in strip joints when he's like 4 or 5, singing in between the next dancer coming up. Think about what that does to a little child. Let's deal with the real first. Right? First things first, he was a little 4-year-old boy, 5-year-old boy out there dancing in strip clubs. Right? Then they lifted him up. Motown sound, right? Berry Gordy, who, if you look at Berry Gordy is sus too. Right? Took that boy. Remember, Michael Jackson. Y'all think Michael Jackson's first album was like Off the Wall or something like that, right? Look back at Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson that's like his fifth, sixth album, right? And when he was a little child, he was singing songs like Ben. Now, who knows if they lied about this or not? But supposedly, the song he wrote about Ben was about a rat that was in his basement. He ain't had no friends. He couldn't go outside. So he had his little rat that would come through, and he wouldn't tell anybody the rat was there because he knew they would try to kill the rat. One day, he comes and he finds that Ben, the little rat, has died in a trap. And so he wrote a song about it. The song is dope too. But see, when you don't know it, when you don't know what's going on, right? Like Michael Jackson was already jacked up before we talking about him. Let's just have some honest conversation. And nobody cared about him being jacked up. Nobody cared about the fact that when he was 9, he was still out here telling y'all in interviews he was 6 because it was supposed to make sure he sold. He was raised in a lie, never knew himself, never knew what a childhood was, and then got to be older, and he started doing cringy stuff, right? And now people are like, where did this come from? But nobody cared about any of that. When did Michael Jackson's name they tried to start putting it in the mud? When did they start trying to say it? When did they empty the clip, so to speak? The mag. They empty out the mag on him. Right? When did they empty that? They didn't do it until he sold more records than anybody else did. Now he's a threat. Nobody cared about his childhood. Nobody cared about the truth. Nobody cared about him having the monkey. Nobody cared about when he sold more records than the Beatles. When he sold more records than Elvis. Some people would say maybe Whitney Houston sold more on one than I don't know how much truth there is, but she had that album, right? Oh, I Want to Dance with Somebody. No. Whatever album I Will Always Love You was on. That album, like, that might be the highest selling album. I don't know. And right after when she started asking for royalties on her stuff, all of a sudden she ends up dead in her bathroom too. It seems like a lot of people end up dead in their bathtub, just like Jimi Hendrix when he started asking about his masters. But anyways, right? I'll leave that to the side. We can go over that another day. But the system is sus. I'm just saying, you think that this is random, and then you listen to the hype of these people who lift up people in order to destroy them. Right? Michael Jackson all of a sudden gets his hands on Sony. All of a sudden, Michael Jackson doesn't like the color of his skin. He had vitiligo. Now, could we say, and I've said it before, could we say, well, why didn't you decide to be the darker version? Why did you put on the white makeup? I can see that. But he ain't just start lightening the skin because he had a disease. Now, yeah, he carved his face up and stuff like that. Hey, that is what it is. And by the way, he never had anybody that was there to say, Mike, yo, stop cutting your face up. He never had anybody being like, yo, Mike, maybe you shouldn't keep being around this stuff when they trying to put this stuff out. By the way, nobody said he was a child molester up until he had that thing, up until he's made the money, up until he has part of Sony. All of a sudden, he's a child molester. And interestingly enough, you know what's wild about it? They did all that stuff in public in front of y'all. Everybody left him. Everybody said he was this and that, all the stuff. But all 3 of the boys that he settled without a court, because that's what he was told to do. He said, hey, look, it's not great to have this on your name. All 3 of the boys came out later and said that they were wrong. The 3rd boy killed himself and wrote a letter and said how wrong he was. Right? Then after Michael died, and they did the whole R. Kelly thing, which nobody cared about. I'm not saying it was right, but nobody cared about what R. Kelly was doing at all. We knew R. Kelly was sleeping with Aaliyah. Age ain't nothing but a number. Like, we knew this. And everybody was still bumping it. Right? But later on, R. Kelly finally has to deal with his sins and stuff. And he got to be a little too powerful. And he started going broke. He starts asking about his masters. All of a sudden, he's this, he's a molester, he's a rapist, he blah, blah. Right? And by the way, for R. Kelly, I would actually say, like, obviously there's truth to it, right? Obviously there's truth to it, right? But with Michael, they had all said, no, he didn't do it. And then after he died, after they did the R. Kelly thing, then to keep ratings up, and then to make sure that anybody, because his family still had a lot of ownership and a lot of stuff, so people started coming at his family and his estate after his death. And what did they do? They have, right after that R. Kelly thing, They all of a sudden bring up the two boys who had already rescinded what they said and said, yeah, we lied about it. And one of them had felt so bad about it because Michael had taken care of him even as an adult. Michael had paid for his marriage. Michael had made sure that they had money to be able to live off of, all that stuff. And so he felt like it was the guy's ex-girlfriend or ex-wife who made him feel bad about the fact that you sold Michael out, right? But the guy still and wanted money. What did he do? He went ahead and went right back into it, got a little payday, right? Basically, probably said, give me $1 million, give me a couple million, whatever. I'll tell y'all whatever you want. And now all of a sudden, oh, see, those two boys, they never believed it. It's documented, by the way. Right? But they lifted him up so they could kill him. They lifted him up, and once he became too powerful, you killed the powerful. It was the system. It was the same music industry that lifted up Michael that killed Michael. Now, Michael put himself in some bad situations. I'm not going to act like Michael didn't have it all together. I'm not going to do like some of these people out here that literally worship Michael Jackson. You can literally probably Google or put on YouTube, rapper, freestyle, Michael Jackson is your Messiah. You'll see some crazy stuff pop up. Some people worship these people. I don't worship him. He's not a deity. He's not a God. He's not a spirit to me. Not none of those things. He's definitely not the Most High Elohim, right? At the same time, though, we allowed his name to be drugged. He said the majority of musicians and actors are suspect and weird. Yeah. But his name was drug. But here's the deal. If we want to be honest about it, now going back, right? You got to be greater than average. Don't go to the accredited, because the accredited means you have to come back to the mean. Just because you might come up some to get to the mean doesn't mean it's still not average. If you're going to come up past the mean. If you want to go past average. The average person doesn't care about what Kanye is or isn't going through, or if Kanye is telling the truth or not. Kanye is telling a lot of lies out here, and Kanye don't really care about it the way that he wants it to proclaim, but at the same time, we're not going to act like everything Kanye says is trash. But see, you're dealing with the mean, the average. A lot of people are stuck in the average. You ready for this? Right? Why do I expect anybody in Hollywood to be acting righteous when the average person in Hollywood is supposed to act evil? Right? Let's deal with the law of averages, if you will. I know I'm not giving the exact law, but let's deal with some law, right? If the average person in Hollywood, we talked about that the other day. Hollywood comes from a term that comes from the pagans. The pagans had an actual wand. They used magic wands, like what you see with Harry Potter and stuff like that. The wand was made out of something called Hollywood, or even Holywood, if you will. Right? Or even hallowed wood. If you say, hallowed be thy name, they would say, hallowed be this wood. It was something they worshipped, dealing with Saturnalia. Idols, right? Making an idol out of a tree. You call it a Christmas tree. Come on, right? And so if that's the average mindset of the person in holy or Hollywood, that's their holiness, then why am I surprised if somebody in Hollywood acts like the average person in Hollywood? The average. Come on, somebody. How you doing, Alonda? That's what the average person does in Hollywood. The average person in Hollywood is ready to do one of the greatest magic tricks you've ever seen. They're ready to go in and have their mind erased and then tell you that they've always been that the whole time. Right? The average person goes into Hollywood to learn how to speak a certain way. They act. They spell things out for you. They like to make sure that things have proper spelling, because spells are what you use to cast certain things upon people. And when you cast a spell, you are trying to manipulate the natural law. This is why witchcraft is dangerous. This is why in our culture we say a witch deserves to be put to death. A witch is not what y'all think as far as somebody got a hat on, somebody got a bump on their nose, somebody got some green makeup on, and they say, "I'll get you, my pretty," and they got right, and you sitting up there scared of. No, no, no. That's not a witch. A witch is somebody who controls, who manipulates. That's what a witch does. See, the manipulative person is the witch. If I go on a witch hunt, I'm looking for the person who's manipulating. In our culture, it says a witch should be put to death. Now, I'm not saying I'm out here with a shotgun, right? Sawed off, ready to put it to somebody's temple, right? What I am going to tell you, though, is that if you come in my community and you're trying to control and manipulate, especially if you've created things to do so, that's when we call it witchcraft. That we got a problem with you, and you need, in some way, shape, or form, not physically necessarily, but we need to kill that spirit off. You need to leave. We need to call you out. And y'all don't want to deal with that. We need to call it out. Whether it's a Jezebel spirit, right? Whatever kind of spirit, whether it's a spirit of trying to bring back somebody from the deaths of dead because you as a king aren't doing what you're supposed to do. So now you want the prophet to be able to come back and be able to talk to you. Whatever it is that you're trying to manipulate, whether you're manipulating people, telling them things that aren't truth or telling half truths. This is why some of you deserve to have your mindset put to death. That's why before we went to Kemet, right? Or sorry, after we came out of Kemet, before we can come into the place of Shalom and we can go into the land of Canaan or Canaan, we had to first allow a whole bunch of people to die. The Most High had to kill off anybody who was above the age of 60, except for Joshua and Caleb, because everybody else had a mindset of what? Of trying to manipulate what the Most High had for us. Right? You gotta come out of a mindset, right? There's a mindset that tries to manipulate. When you tell a child in order to pass a test that they have, and this is a stumbling block. The Bible says anybody who's a stumbling block, they deserve to be what? They deserve to have a millstone tied around their neck and be thrown off a bridge. That's what it says, right? If you're going to talk to a child and you're going to have a child come to school and you're going to tell that child in order for them to get an A, they have to write out a bunch of lies. You deserve to have a millstone tied around your neck and be thrown off a bridge if you would cause even the least of these little ones to stumble. That's what the Bible says. All unrighteousness and manipulation must die. Yeah. And it's coming to a place, right? Like this fasting thing has been crazy for me, even this week. Right? I gotta stop speaking this stuff because I speak this stuff and this stuff hits me. But like I said, it always hits the person because speaking it first. So whatever. I guess this is the way it works. But I'm just telling you, like, be careful. Be careful when you get in the truth, because you'll find out there's a lot of witches. And look, I'm here to tell you, even though they might not know they're witches, they can still be a witch. I said this earlier, and somebody not gonna like this. I had to realize there was some stuff that I was doing in my own personal life that was witchcraft. I didn't know it was, but it was, because I was being manipulative and I was creating, even sometimes creating with my tongue. I have the great ability to be able to speak and speak well and to be able to put things together and win. And I can even manipulate the situation to make sure I can win. And I didn't realize I was doing it until it was brought to my attention that, hey, you're so concerned with being right that you're not always righteous. Stop trying to win and just make sure that you're righteous. Sometimes the worst person to get in a conversation with is a preacher, not because they were bad inherently, but because we will begin to preach what we want, right? And we can use the word and manipulate it to be able to get what we want rather than preach the truth. And I, who used to be a liar in the world, I've admitted this several times. So I, who used to be an extreme liar and used to do very well at it, had to learn that even though I gotten out of that, I was still using the same manipulative tendencies to be able to win. Even if I was wrong on something outright, just straight wrong, I could still find a way to win an argument. But just because I won the argument, it doesn't mean that I'm telling the truth. Yeah, there's a lot of witches out here, right? And so you got to realize, just because you're ignorant of being a witch doesn't mean you're not a witch. Just because you're ignorant of your manipulative ways doesn't mean you're not manipulative. Just because you're ignorant in the cognitive dissonance of calling something that is and it's not doesn't mean that it's you're not doing that very thing. How you doing, Sister Akita? Like you got to be ready for this. Are you ready for the change that happens? Because this change is gonna come with some stuff. It's gonna come with you having to give up a lot of witchcraft, and witchcraft feels great to a lot of y'all because a lot of you get victories through witchcraft because you're very manipulative. Forgive me. Forgive me if you feel like I'm coming at you too wrong. Forgive me. I genuinely ask for forgiveness. However, while asking for your forgiveness, I also ask for you to hang in there and focus because the time for play is done. Do you not know what time it is? Can you not see what's going on? Do you not see these babies out here are losing their mind? How many school shootings does it take before you realize school is more dangerous than it is positive? Huh? Now the lie they try to tell you is that school shootings is this new thing that just started happening. School shootings been happening for a long time, right? But at the end of or people being killed at school, whatever, that's been happening for a long time, right? But at the end of the day, let's keep it a buck. We weren't growing up doing school, school shooting drills. Like, how long does this stuff got to keep happening before somebody says something ain't right with the system? This is supposed to be the place where your children are taught. Your children are taught to be ready to get shot in their developing years. Right? We can say the bombing drills, right? Especially you talking about the Cold War, having to get underneath the desk. Y'all remember that? Got to get underneath the desk. They had a siren come on, as if a nuclear bomb hitting you was you were gonna be protected because you were under a desk. And that wasn't even to protect you. That was just to have you have a mindset that you would be protected. But you ain't gonna protect somebody from a nuclear bomb, right? But we have prophet who told you about that. How long should they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Right? But Bob Marley, he was talking about Garvey and them. He was quoting Garvey when he said, "Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. Have no fear of atomic energy because none of them can stop the time." Malcolm X said it like this. He said, "Who cares about an atomic bomb?" He says, "If you got an atomic bomb and you got an atomic bomb and you got an atomic bomb, it gets to a place where nobody can use them anyways." At some point, why are you worried about, well, you know what? They said they're going to could they put everybody in jail? If they wanted to, could they put everybody in jail? If everybody said we're done with the wicked system, if 500 people said we're done, right? And there were 3 police officers, you think they're going to arrest everybody? You forgot the power that you have. See, school teaches the powerful to become powerless. Come on, somebody. That's a bar right there. Right? So you've been taught in school to give up your power. There was a power that you had when you were a child. How powerful was it to know what you were supposed to do when you were 3, 4 years old? You remember? So, do y'all even remember? See, they've even taken our memories away. Right? They even taken our memories away. But for real, like, how powerful was it at 3 or 4 years old? You knew I'm going to be a dancer. Then somebody told you, that's nice and everything, but you gotta learn you gotta learn trigonometry. Oh, I like that, Minister Nice. School transfers power. That's a great way of saying it. You need to put that in the pamphlet, right? Because school transfers power. Why does school transfer power? School transfers power because I used to be powerful, now I'm powerless. If I give up my power, the power has to go somewhere. There was a power when you used to be a little boy, and somebody says, "What are you going to do?" And you said, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to be somebody who's going to be a great orator. I'm going to be a great speaker." And they said, "But speaking doesn't pay the bills." If I knew that what I was doing now, Yah would bless it, right? If I knew it, not aware of it, if I knew it, if I was intimate with it and had learned it from when I was young, I could have been doing this stuff. YouTube have been around, 10, 15 years before I finally decided to come on it. I can only imagine if I had developed the gift and had been seeking and looking and doing all this stuff and had stopped trying to make sure everybody else was okay with my gift, or everybody else said I was doing what they said and then would give me little pieces of stuff like that, y'all's already blessed me. Right? But you're in a system that tells you you're not supposed to be any of that. You're in a system that tells you you're not supposed to be any of those things. The system is sus. This system is sus. I'm doing it from outside. Right? The system is sus. Matter of fact, if you want to go to YouTube, on YouTube, I put the cities sometimes that I'm on, or I'm in, or the states I'm in, right? But the system is sus. You're in a sus place. You're living in a sus place. You're living with a sus mentality. You're living in a sus mentality, right? This is crazy mentality that we live in. This is a crazy mentality that we live in, where we think we have this belief system that school is supposed to benefit, when school was designed by people to make sure that they took away who you are. We're on location, Emma. You see what I'm saying? Right? Where is who the word educate literally, if we were to break it down, I'm shifting. I'll admit I'm shifting a little bit the definition, right? But education is basically, if I were to reach inside you, right? I were to reach inside you and I were to pull out your potential and show it to you. We have a discussion about it. And then we say, okay, you ready for this? You say, yeah. You say, are you ready to help me? Yep, as best as I can. This is going to be your journey, though, but I'll be here to help. I put it back inside you. And then we say, let's go get it. That's education. Why am I trusting that to somebody else outside of my own community? Yeah, why am I trusting somebody else in my own community? I'm just I'm just saying, why am I trusting somebody outside of my own community to be the barometer of what is great or not? I just need I if somebody doesn't want you to be free, why am I trusting the person who enslaves to teach freedom to anybody of any race, by the way? I like that. I like that, brother TJ. You said I look like I am no stranger to healthy food choices. Yeah, we eat healthy. Right? But I'm just saying, you keep going to the oppressor. There's a problem. You keep going to the person who you're voting for. You keep calling it the lesser of two evils. Somebody says, why do you still vote? You say, well, it's just the lesser of two evils. But you got to vote. If you don't vote, things won't change. Things have not changed. It's still the same. You make up, you have this weird mentality where you think that because there's technology you've never heard of before, right? Doesn't mean it didn't exist. But because you're getting technology now that you never had this much access to in your life, you say things have changed. But in 1865, if you're not aware, that's the year supposedly when slavery ended. 13th Amendment tells you that didn't happen, and that was written in 1865 too. But nevertheless, in 1865, you have a belief system that says what? In 1865, your belief system says that things were so much worse than they are today. Might I enlighten you on something? Because it's never as simple as black and white, anyways. But in 1865, less than 0.5% of the American population, less than 0.5% of the wealth, excuse me, of America was black owned wealth or whatever, right? Guess what? It is 2023. Let's do the math real quick. 1965, or five, that's 100 years. Then 75, 85, 95, 2005, 2015, that we add on 8 more years. So that's 158 years later. Now instead of the wealth of America being 0.5% of the wealth of America being something that is black owned, now it has risen up to still being 0.5% of the wealth of America is still black owned. Did you catch that? In other words, you still own the same amount of wealth that you did in 1865. And if you know what they did with the 14th Amendment, they did it because you were not even considered to be Negro or slave or black or something at one point. When you got your reparations, you were considered to be a freedman. Freedmen were not part of the American system. They were their own nation of people. And so they eradicated your reparations and got rid of them because they realized that you were becoming free because you were getting wealth. Look up what Andrew Johnson did right after Abraham Lincoln. Look up the 17th president and stuff that he did to allow for you to be eradicated. You're still dealing with the same problem. And guess what? When you were growing, you had your own schools. Where's Seneca Falls? Let's get it. You said it was better in 1865. Was it closer knit black family back then? Yeah, yeah. Like watch this. In certain ways it was. Watch this. You ready? Where's Seneca Falls? You said at least we're consistent. Yeah. Somebody help me out. Where is Seneca Falls at? You said upstate New York? I'm looking for a specific Seneca Falls. I mean, you've heard of Central Park, haven't you? Right? We have a problem. They tell you that stuff has changed, but the state-owned park, I'm sorry, Seneca Village. I said Seneca Falls. You're absolutely right. My bad. Seneca Village. Sorry. Thank you for the correction. You're right. Upstate New York. My bad. Right. My bad. Right. But when you look at Central Park and you go look at the marker at Central Park, right? And you go look at that marker. What does that marker say? This spot used to be something that was a black-owned town. You had your own stuff. You were teaching your own. You were in charge of your education. You were in charge of your spirituality. You were in charge of having your own food, all that stuff. And what did they do? They came and they eradicated it. Now they'll tell you that's what happened, but they're not going to give it back to you, right? They'll tell you that's what happened, but they're not going to say, "Oh yeah, we took that." And you mean you want to go to that same person who will put a little plaque, at least be honest enough to put on the plaque, yeah, we destroyed y'all. And we know that we took it, which means that we stole it. We thieves. But you ain't getting that back. That's state owned. And they'll have you identify more with the state of New York. That's why you call yourself the nation of New York, or lawfully you would call it the people of New York. People is a nation. So you call yourself the people of New York while standing and walking and going for runs through Central Park that belongs to your actual people or your actual nation, but you don't see yourself as belonging to that nation. You'll run over the graves, so to speak, at least of the graves of the of what used to be the foundation of your own belief system, right? You'll run over those graves because you see yourself as something greater. That's the average person in this system. That's the median. That's the accreditation that this system gives. Why would you want to be part of that? And by the way, the water that's right next to it comes from a place where they flooded out another place where we used to live. So they knocked us out of there and then they flooded the city that was right next to it. And they know it. And even some of us know it. And don't even think about the fact that when I go for a run here, right, I might be running over somebody's grave that's mine. Because we don't think about it that way. You have been taught to disassociate yourself, to separate yourself from yourself. This is why you are This is why you are having to come back to a place of what's that word? What's that word? Membership, right? You are, and we at SOC we're starting to finally get this idea of membership down correctly, so we can write it out correctly, right? But this is why you had this thing of membership. See, you were dismembered, right? You were a member of a nation. You were a member of a society that uplifted you. And what happened? You were cut off. You were dismembered from it. So if I have a finger and all of a sudden it gets cut off, it's dismembered, we got a problem. I go and I take the finger and make sure it's in ice. I might even try to put it in some kind of things that will feed the finger, whatever. I make sure that I wrap this up, put it in ice as well. We get to the hospital as soon as possible so they can do what? Put it back with the body so I can be remembered. And then after I get remembered, just because I've been sewn back into it doesn't mean that I don't have to go through some process of healing, some process of physical therapy even. So I gotta get in the gym, so to speak. I gotta get used to tapping in on things. I gotta get used to sometimes putting some pressure on it, lifting it up, right? And I gotta go through something. See, a lot of people, you're starting to come back into membership with this, but you still got to go through a process of being able to get those veins. See the veins were cut off. See the artery might have been jacked up. See or I'm sorry, the muscles were cut off, the tendons were cut off, the blood flow was cut off. See, there's a lot of stuff that was there, and see, because it was disconnected, it started to die. We might have slowed the dying process some, but it started to die. So since it started to die, we had to make sure we got it back together as soon as possible. See, and when you were disconnected from yourself, you went through this thing. It was called death. You started to die, and some of us still stay disconnected, and we're still dying and getting further and further and further. And the only thing I know, as much as they keep telling you, don't worry about this, don't worry about your diaspora, don't worry about this, you are all Americans, everything's same, nobody has to worry about it. Why are you going back there? Why are you trying to get a culture? We're just a melting pot, right? But you're not a melting pot, as Miss or Mrs. Jane Elliott, Dr. Jane Elliott says, like, you're not a melting pot, you're a salad. In a salad, every piece of vegetable, see, in a melting pot, you just throw everything in there and hope that the stuff blends together, and you can't tell the difference in taste. You can tell there's a lot of stuff put there, but you're not really going to see the difference. But in a salad, the tomato needs to be what it's supposed to be, and the salad and the lettuce needs to be crisp, right? And if you got eggs in there, the eggs need to be identifiable as eggs, right? And all this stuff, you want everything to be in its place. You want to have the texture and everything of every single thing be exactly what it's supposed to be. So when it comes together, everything is noticed. But you're so used to being just thrown in a pot that you don't even care about what's supposed to be this and what's supposed to be that. But you think that that's going to bless you. You think that having your culture melted away. The second you come back to your culture, now there's some stuff you got to get ready to do. You got to be ready to be crisp again. Right? I'm not trying to have salad with soggy lettuce. I need some crisp lettuce. You got to be alive. You got to have some magnesium up in you. Right? You hear what I'm saying? If I wanted some soggy lettuce, I would have just cooked it. I would have cooked the stuff out of it. I need all of the enzymes to be in there so that it will help me to digest what I'm about to eat. See, you can't be digested by the body because you don't even have the enzymes in you. And the body, the nation we're trying to build doesn't have enzymes in it. We don't even know how to digest. We're so used to having things that are not digestible. Matter of fact, so many people are eating food that they don't even realize that for years, for at least 2-3 decades, you've been eating food that's not been real at all. Not just as far as stuff that's on the shelf. I'm talking about pink slime. You were eating hamburgers that were more pink slime than it was meat. And the pink slime, even if there was real stuff in the pink slime, it was fat and stuff like that versus the actual meat itself. That's the average. That's why I said at some point in your life, you're going to have to become unemployable. See, if you're average, anybody can employ you. But when you're not average, almost nobody can employ you. Hey, Shalom, Christopher. How you doing? Right? See, a lot of people want to regress to the mean. Or because you've been so low in life for so long, you come up to the average and you think that the average is better than what anybody else has done. Hey, mama was a slave. So if this generation is a sharecropper, we moving on up. You hear what I'm saying? Like, that's our mindset. Well, they were sharecroppers, but at least we getting minimum wage. We moving on up. Well, we're only making like $20 an hour now, but I got a college degree. So hey, I'm moving on. Like at some point, you got to realize that you just average. I'm raising my hand. Don't be mad at me. I'm raising my hand. Y'all see my hand up? I move back so everybody on all the platforms can see my hand. I'll be the first one to raise my hand. I had to come outside of average thought because if I'm a king, if you were a royalty, if you're a king, if you're a queen on here, then you don't have common sense because the sense of commoners is not apropos for the king. Why is average acceptable? Because the system is sus. You know the only reason a degree means anything to you? Because there was a time to where they used a degree to be able to separate a certain diaspora away from your diaspora. Now that anybody can get a degree, it's just average. I'm not mad at the degree. Hear what I'm saying though. The degrees you're getting are average. I'm not trying to be mad at you, right? Look at this. You can get a degree to be a doctor. But then again, you don't have to get a degree to be a doctor. Just study for the test, pass the test, and then you got to have on-the-job training anyways. So you're going through something for 4 years, and there's somebody else out there that says, I'll just study my behind off, pass the test, and then I'll get all the training they get anyways. And I'll pay less money to do it. Right? You don't have to go to school to be a lawyer. Study to be a lawyer. They don't even give you a license. There's no such thing as a license for being a lawyer. Pass the bar. That's it. Raise the bar from yourself, pass the bar, and then eventually get to a place to where you're your own boss. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to go to school for that. They told you got to go. You don't have to go to school, right? The things that you should be trained on, you losing training because you're so busy studying yourself sick to major in minor things, and you minor in the major. You said black women are the most educated by document chasing the system. Yeah, and they don't respect you anyways, right? In my diaspora, we know what a woman is. At least in my culture, I can't speak for our diaspora. We're gonna get there, right? At least a lot of us are gonna get there. Not everybody, right? But in my culture, we recognize that the sister has certain things that she has to do, and we have to capitulate to. That's why your Bible even says, "Submit yourselves one to another." And you don't submit. It's not called submansion or subwomanship. It's called submission. You got a lot of brothers without a mission talking about submit to me. Don't submit to no man. Submit to a mission. If his mission is on point, you'll find that you'll always find that that loving the man is easy. Find a woman that loves to submit to mission. She has her own mission and she's willing to submit to missions because women are people that multiply, right? As a multiplier, if you multiply, right? If I'm looking for this is stuff they don't teach you in school. Why they don't teach this in school, I don't know. Probably because they don't want strong marriages. But see, you've learned as a sister to minor or to major in minor things. You learned to major in feminism, but feminism is not even for our sisters. It's for using the colonial social construct. It's for white women who were married to white men. The white men didn't give them what they promised them, and therefore the white women are fighting for what they were promised. You were never promised what they were promised. They were killing you. That's why they have the Casual Killing Act. They were killing you and killing your babies. I'm talking about the slave master wives. The fight is not your fight. The fight is not your fight. Right? But you're busy fighting for something that has nothing to do with you, nothing to do with your people. That fight is not ours. It was never supposed to be yours. It was never designed for you. Gloria Steinem worked for the CIA. Heck, it was never designed for white women. For real, for real. Gloria Steinem was working for the CIA. The CIA created feminism to make sure that they controlled and manipulated you. Look it up. I'm not making this up. She's a CIA informant by her own lips, by her own admission, and still is out here being invited on talk shows to be able to make sure that she represents the feminist struggle. How wild is that? That somebody can outright tell you, I work for the CIA who was trying to control and manipulate you, and I'm still going to go and I still have enough fortitude to be able to go on a show and tell you why you still need to bow down to something that wasn't made up for women. It was made up by the beast. What mindset do we have to be in to not call that out? Real talk, nothing to do with you, but you'll vote all for all the nonsense. Yeah, Like what that's so nonsensical. Like how much thank you for the love, by the way. How much cognitive dissonance do we have to have? And thank you for the likes and shares. If you're with us on YouTube, feel free to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification tab so you can know when we're coming on, all that stuff. That's the little bell, I think, on the videos, right? How foolish have we become? I said we, okay, we, all of us. How foolish have we become to where we're still asking for jobs from the people who literally hung us from trees? When are you going to give us what we're owed? Never is the answer. I'm sorry. I know you don't want to hear it. This is why you need to become your own people. Yeah, Malcolm X, the Honorable Malcolm said media will make the innocent or make the innocent the criminals, and the criminals the innocent. They're not here to make you look great. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I told you. I apologize. Forgive me, because it's not my. Forgive me if it seems like I'm about to be very abrasive with what I say. But I think if I have real love for you, I should actually like show real love for you. That's just what I believe. If I really love you, I should tell you the truth. So here's the truth. Whether you want to hear this or not, I love you enough to tell you the truth. Okay? Look, anybody who keeps telling us to vote for wickedness because it's the lesser of two evils is still telling you to vote for evil. If anybody wants you to vote evil upon their own people, that person is a traitor. Whether they're ignorantly asking you to be a traitor or not, that person is still a traitor. I'm not trying. I know this gonna hurt. Look, I used to vote. I was a traitor. All right. I'm just telling you the way it is. Anybody who tells you that you need to be something that's for the people and by the people, but doesn't do anything to make you a people, that person is a traitor. Right? Watch this. Watch this. Joe Biden is not a traitor because he's simply doing what who he works for tells him to do. Joe Biden is faithful, right? Kamala Harris is a traitor. You might not like my saying it because you're still into the whole Republican Democrat thing. I could care less about that. I've come out of that enough to be able to tell you something. See, Kamala's a traitor because she knows that anything that she does is not going to help your people. Matter of fact, let's keep it a buck. How much? Hear me now. Hear me now. Are you ready? We just talking about truth. How much does Kamala Harris actually do as the vice president of the United States? I'm not even just talking about she was locking up her own people. I'm not just talking about that she never wanted to be black until all of a sudden she wanted to start running for president and then it was Wakanda forever. Leave all that stuff to the side. I'm asking a legit question. What does the vice president, any person who's been vice president, what does a vice president actually do? Thank you for the love. I'm just asking. I'm not here trying to cause hate. I don't got no hate in my heart. I don't got no heaven or hell to put nobody in. That's not what this is about. That's not what this is about at all. That's not what I'm doing at all. How you doing, Brother Vincent? Right? And once again, I'm not even just talking about her as far as her not liking her own people or whatever. I'm talking specifically, what does a vice president do? Supposedly supposed to be into foreign affairs. But the vice president really is just there as window dresser. And if something happens to the president, possibly, depending on how the president dies, that's something they don't teach us as well. But depending on how things are working at the time of the president's death, maybe she will become the next the person who's second in command. But really, depending on what's going on in the country, is depends on whether or not the vice president actually becomes the president. They don't have to become the president. At least not, maybe they become eventually the president, but they can go months without being the president. It depends. Like if we're at war or something like that, right? Or we're about to go into an act of war, make a decision on an act of war. Guess what? The vice president is not the next person up. You got to start talking about who's in the United States as far as USC 28 USC 3002 15 section B. Where now you got to go to the board of directors. Who's in charge of what on the board? If we at war, then guess what? You go to the Secretary of Defense. The vice president ain't in charge of war. You see that? So you got to figure this out. See, you're in a system. You don't realize you're in a corporation. So even if Kamala wanted to do all these great things, voting Kamala in didn't mean nothing was going to happen. She's not in charge of nothing. That's not her responsibility. That's like when everybody got mad at our sister who went into the Supreme Court, and they're like, she didn't cause any of the changes. I can't believe I voted her in. First of all, you ain't voting nobody in, right? That's the way people talk about it, at least, like you voted somebody in. That was a choice that was made, number one, right? And they put it out there and displayed so that y'all could see what was going on. But reality was she was going to get it no matter what. She had already been chosen. And when she was put in there, her number one responsibility is not to take care of you. Right? The Supreme Court justice, when she got in there, none of their responsibility is to take care of you. They are supposed to make sure that they interpret the law. That is it. That is all. You are a sidebar conversation. You are affected by it, but they are not here to take care of you. They are here to interpret law. Don't matter if she's married to a white man or she's married to a black man. Doesn't matter if she got grandchildren. Doesn't matter if she got no children. Doesn't matter if she's white or black. Doesn't matter whatever. She was not here. Not one of them. I don't care how much y'all try to fall in love with these people. Not one of them was here to make sure that they took care of you. That's not their responsibility. Their responsibility is to interpret law. Right? And they don't follow our laws anyways. They're here to make sure that you know legalese. Well, if they're here to make sure that you know legalese, then study the legalese. That's when you're in their system, but don't be of it. Know the law. That is your problem. Is that, once again, remember I said we have a problem. This series that we're going into is going to be called, hopefully y'all are with us. I'm going to do my best to make sure, excuse me, that I'm showing up a lot more than what I've been. I mean, I've been doing pretty decent, but these last couple months have been something. Well, this last month, I kind of gone back into some, oh gosh, I don't know what's going on. I apologize. We just lost TikTok for a second. But hopefully y'all get y'all with me. Y'all getting this, right? Hopefully y'all getting this. Right? This is not designed for you. Hopefully you catching this. This system is not designed for you. It is not shocking to me, even though it's crazy, but it's not shocking to me if Facebook or YouTube or TikTok or whatever I'm on tries to take down what I'm doing. It is not a shock to me that they would try to do that. You know why it is not shocking to me? It's not shocking to me because that's what they're supposed to do. Because I'm not part of the system. I'm not here to twerk and tell you everything gonna be all right. I'm not here to just make funny videos. I don't mind making funny videos, but that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to make sure that people are being free and coming out mind first. They here to do a mind freak, right? They want you to be on that Chris Angel stuff, be a mind freak. I'm here to make sure that you come out mind first. Right? And so guess what? If I'm not average, then I won't come down to the average, then guess what? That means less people are supposed to find you. May I say this to you? So you think that the people who are not average are the people that everybody knows about? Not necessarily so. If you're not average, it means that you're less likely. Did you catch that? If you're not average, you're less likely to make sense. Come on, somebody. You hear what I'm saying? If you are not average, you are less likely to fit in. Why are you trying to fit in so bad? I'm not supposed to fit in. Come on, Sister Mary. I'm not supposed to fit in. Guess what? The average person can't handle problems. So they're less likely to have them because they run from them. Oh, y'all don't want to hear that. Come on, let's get it. The average person is less likely to have problems because the average person runs from problems. But people who can handle problems, they take them on head first. And they turn problems with the help of the Most High. They shift problems into things of prayer, and they leave them at altars, and they become blessings that they're able to help them to come through something and make them stronger than what they were in the first place. Yeah, you are a particular person. You don't fit in. A peculiar person. You don't fit in. You hear what I'm saying? You are not average. If I was average, I could see me doing average things. If I was average, I could see me fitting in with everybody. If I was average, I could see everybody would get along with it. If I just came on and said, hey, man, I'm just trying to talk to you. And if I gave you the stereotypical motivational speech, I'm not saying motivational speeches have no power, right? I'm saying that if I gave you the stereotypical one, I can give you the stereotypical one. Keep your head up. Don't worry about what anybody has to say. Only you can do this. Nobody else exists. What are you going to do when times get tough? What are you going to do things when times get stressed? I can give you that, right? But that doesn't really have any power to help you because you're not about to go through the average stuff. I can't give you the average motivational speech because you're not average. If you're going to be a king or queens come with nations. Did you hear what I said? This is why they don't want you to learn about kingdom. Kings and queens come with nations. Nations come with conflict. I'm sorry for the wind. I hope it's not too strong. Do you hear what I'm saying? Nations come with conflict. They're not ready for this today. That's all right, Holy Spirit. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Nations come with conflict. How you going to be over a nation you can't deal with conflict? Right? Are you ready for conflict? Are you ready for people who find things always to conflict with your viewpoint, with your culture, with your system? I mean, are you ready for that? Right? I run from it too. I keep a buck with you. I run from it from time to time. I'm done running. But yeah, are you ready for conflict? Are you? Are you ready? See, if you're going to deal with conflict, you got to be trained for conflict. You're dealing with a system we're in school, right? We're going back once again. The system is sus. How are you going to ask me to be ready for conflict, but all you do is tell me to run away from it? Stop telling me, right? That happened in the past. That's old. This don't matter no more. You'll never do. You know, why are you bringing up problems? Everybody should just have excitement. Nobody should disagree. You are a liar. That's why people don't have any power anymore. Right? You don't have any power. You have a conflict in your relationship and you out. I mean, you done? Number one reason for divorce in the West is because of money. You done? Somebody lost their job. You out? I was busted and disgusted on the street. My wife hung in there. Now she has her own business, but she ain't got to do nothing she don't feel like doing. She was out the other day. She was like, well, I got to do blah, blah, whatever. I'm going to do this, or whatever. And guess what? My first response, okay, there was a time I couldn't do this at all. Oh, okay, well, how much? You probably going to need this, right? Matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and send you this. Then when she's out, I was like, you know what? I feel like having blah, blah. Can you go by and stop at the store, pick that up for me? And by the way, I know you probably want to pick blah, blah, blah while you're there. Here's some more stuff, right? Right? But that took conflict. It took years of her having to deal with somebody that wasn't ready. She met a brother while he was coming off the street. It took years to be able to get to this position. Right? But some people ain't willing to deal with conflict. What if it took 20 years for that to happen? 30 years for that to happen? 40 years for that to happen? See, my wife deserves everything that's coming to her, not because, hear what I'm saying. My wife deserves everything that's coming to her, not because just because she's sexy, she's fine, she's intelligent, she's got all this, she's got everything in her. She can cook well, she look better. She looked to me like the greatest thing ever. She's got all these different things. She always speaks life into me. She's somebody who is worthy of being respected and all this stuff. Her humanity is outstanding. She's a great mother. I can go down the list, but you want to know one of the reasons she deserves everything that's coming to her is because she was willing to deal with conflict. She's a queen. She can deal with conflict. She stood by my side when everybody was telling me we won't hire you, but at the same time was saying, why aren't you hireable? Right? She said, hey, go on social media. She saw picking up steam. She saw me doing a side hustle. She saw me at one point on TikTok. Literally, I was posting at one point on 2 different channels, sometimes 10, 20, 30, 40 times a day, right? While doing the side hustle, coming back a couple times a day to make sure we sat down, ate each other, saw each other eye to eye. She saw the stuff picking up, and she never said, you know what, you need to get a job. This and that. She said, I got faith in you. When we first met and I was coming up off the street and she was making all the money, right? When I say all the money, I'm talking about doing well. When she first met me, she said, I see greatness in you. And she would speak things into my life like, do you think you believe to be blessed? And I would hate it when she would say it because I go into my whole preacher phase. Well, y'all's gonna bless me and this and that, and I don't do it for money. She said, I ain't worried about you doing it for money. I'm just saying, do you believe that you should actually be blessed by some of the stuff that you do? Because your family at some point should be able to depend on you if you're gonna do this. Don't just do this and say that y'all's gonna bless you, but then you don't have no blessing to show. Right? Like she hung in there through me having to make some mindset change, still hanging in there because I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But she stood in there through conflict about acceptance and application. Yeah. She stood in there through conflict. See? So anything that I have, she's worthy of it tenfold, right? 30, 60, 100-fold. She's worthy of it. Why? Because she's sitting there in conflict. When I was conflicted about who I was, when I was conflicted because I was coming on here and people were calling me the N-word and all types of stuff, and I didn't know if I could handle this, but I kept on pressing. She stood through there. So the rest of her life is vacation, if she should so choose. Now she does a lot of stuff behind the scenes. By the way, we are going to be doing Saturday at 11 a.m. She's going to be doing something for those that are homeschooling. So yeah, if you have the Zoom link, we'll be doing the homeschooling thing. So if you'd like to be able to join us for that, feel free. Okay. Sorry, I wasn't on the last couple of days, so I wasn't able to say it for sure. But yeah, so it won't be Sunday, it'll be Saturday. So if we do have Zoom meetings, we'll have to figure that out if we do a group Zoom meeting or whatever. But if you want to bring your children on, it'll start this Saturday. So feel free to join us at 11 a.m. right after the Shabbat Shalom service at 11 a.m. We'll go right into it. Okay. Right. But she deserves vacation. Right. She deserves everything that's my work. Right. She should be able to live off it and live well. Anything that I get that's for us, she should be able to get the majority of it. You know why? Because she's gonna take what I give to her anyways, and she's gonna multiply it. She can't even help it. Even when she's just trying to have fun, she can't help but be like, you want me to get this? You want me to get that? I saw this whiteboard out there. I saw these markers. I know you running out of this for class. I know she can't help it because she multiplies. See, because I got a wife. I didn't get a woman. I didn't have a girlfriend. I have my little friend. It's gonna be at 11 a.m. Eastern New York time. Right? I ain't just have my little friend. Like a lot of people, you got your girlfriend, you got your boyfriend. I have a wife, right? So I expect different things from my wife than a lot of people expect. But once again, see, the system is sus. Why didn't they teach you that? Why didn't they teach you what a husband was from when you were knee high to a grasshopper? That's what we used to say. At least some of my family used to say that. Well, you sound like a man boy when you say stuff like that. All right, but thanks for being on. Or I guess somebody got to you, right? But you hear what I'm saying? Like, I'm ready for those things, right? Are you ready? You're not average. That means even the people that are coming at you, you got a problem, because in your mindset, you think that you're not supposed to go through stuff, or you're supposed to go through average problems. If you're going to be royalty, you can't go through average problems. By definition, they have to be royal problems. That means you have to treat them like royal problems. How you doing, Dion? Shalom. Right? That means you got to treat them like royal problems. You hear what I'm saying? You have to treat them like royal problems. You hear what I'm saying? You have to what? You got to treat them like royal problems. You getting waxed by your problem because you ain't treating it with the respect it deserves. That is a royal problem. You are royalty. You can't just let that linger. Your nation is dependent on you to solve that. Ooh, ooh, come on. Come on, somebody. Your nation is looking at you to take care of that thing. This isn't just a random problem. You got to get your attitude together, because there's a nation that's learning how to live life based on your attitude. Your attitude is not just your problem. Your attitude is your diaspora's problem. Oh, they don't want to hear that. Praise God. We're going to give it to them anyways, though. Thank you, Holy Spirit. You have a national, or what we call a national problem. Your attitude needs to be adjusted. You're being afraid of what's going to happen tomorrow needs to be adjusted. You hear what I'm saying? Your wickedness needs to be adjusted. Thank you for the love. There's somebody out there that's waiting. Romans chapter 8, verse 18, the suffering of this present time is not worthy to be compared to the glory which shall be revealed. Romans chapter 8, verse 19, behind it says that the creature is waiting on the manifestation of the sons of Elohim. You have not manifested into who you're supposed to be. And then you're talking about, but why all these sisters acting like this? Well, brother, act like a man. Act like a husband. Act like a father. And watch her begin to multiply what it is that you put out. She multiplying it already. You just call it hell, but you gave her problems. When you gave her problems, she multiplied it. That's what she's supposed to do. She gave you back hell. There ain't no great men anymore. I don't know what's going to do. Okay, create an environment to where great men can be rewarded for being great men. What is the reward for being a great man in this system? He don't get rewarded when he go outside the door. So when he come home, what's the reward? That's going to make him work harder every time to be greater, because every time he's greater, you give him something better. And every time you give him something better, he does something greater. See? We got a problem. The system is sus. Nobody's telling you that you're in a system that doesn't reward each other, and you bring the same system back into your abode. So you go back into your house with the same and bring the same problems. You've been having menage a trois with these problems over and over again. You bring the same problems from the world. You sleep with them. You have them in your bedroom. You keep talking about them as if they're your problems. You know how people will say stuff like, you a rat? We don't like rats out here. We don't like people who are snitches and all this stuff and rats. That's not even our culture. You know where that came from? Like, that came from people that were dealing with the plague, who didn't know how to take care of themselves and then make sure that things were clean and didn't take showers and baths. And they dealt with a plague. We never dealt with that. I'm not saying we never dealt with any plagues. Hear what I'm saying? That was not our plague. Our plague coming from not being clean, that was not our issue. So I don't call anybody a rat. First of all, you're not a rat, even if you tell on somebody. But secondly, that's not our culture. That's coming from some Europeans that didn't like rats because they carried a plague, and therefore, if you did something dirty to them, they called you a rat. That ain't got nothing to do with me. I ain't got no rats in my society. If somebody does something that can harm somebody in my community, we need to not only make sure that we call it out. If I get a chance, I need to get my hands on you first, because you ain't gonna be coming around here bringing danger to my daughter. See, this is the problem that you have. Talking about a rat. You got a problem. This system is sus. This system told you you're somebody else's system. See, those people that are above your system, they made their money when they were selling the drugs to you, right? When they were selling the stuff in prohibition to you, right? And then they saw when black people were doing something wrong, that's when they even wanted, that's part of what they used to say that they should cause prohibition. Where they're like, you see these black people, if black people get their hands on alcohol, if they get their hands on drugs, I mean, who knows what'll happen, right? Like Coca-Cola, right? Used to have cocaine in it. That's why it's called Coca-Cola, right? It had the Coke, and then the cola part came from the cola nut, right? But even before that, they just put cocaine straight up in wine, right? This is where they made their money. This is how they made their money, y'all. These are the same people talking about rats and disease and stuff like that. These are the same people. This is a different culture. You have a problem. Why did they never tell you to put two and two together? Maybe they taught you about the plague, but they didn't tell you that it's because of the fact that they weren't clean. Bubonic plague ain't doing nothing to nobody that's showered up, that's eating healthy. That's not our problem. It's like when they talk about the dark ages. Thank you, Alonda. That's like when they talk about the dark ages. Who for who? For who? And even the dark ages aren't as bad as what they claim anyways, right? But for who? Who's dark ages? We never were in darkness as far as spiritually, emotionally, or physically. Well, certain tribes, up until we had to deal with y'all. And you told us that we were nothing. And still out here trying to tell our children they ain't nothing in school. I ain't never had no dark ages like that. When Rome went down, everything was destroyed. We taught Rome what it was. Rome learned from the Etruscans and the Greeks. Who do you think they learned from? You see what I'm saying? But it's not my problem. It's really not. And I'm not gonna keep pretending that it is my problem. Right? You want me to pretend that that's my problem. That's not my problem. Right? Like, but isn't it problematic that you're teaching my children to make your problems our problems? How you doing, Mr. C? Thanks for being part of the community. Did you catch that? Thank you for the love. Appreciate it. Did you catch that? That's not our problem, but you want me to send my children to your school so you can teach them to make your problems their problems. Marxism is not my problem. You are my problem if you are part of a wicked, corrupt system. The beast is my problem. Something that told our sisters, what, right? Like read the Willie Lynch letter where he told them that you have to train black people like their horses, and you bring the most the black or the black slave, the N word, right? The N word male. You bring him in front of the whole thing, the one that's the most unruly, and then you basically tar and feather him. You beat him, you strip him naked, you tar and feather him. You spread his legs out, you set him on fire, and then you have horses pull him apart. While that's happening, you bring all the other males, all the other N-word males in front, and you whip them in front of the N-word females and their offspring. You whip them not to death, but to the point of death because you don't want to mess up good economics. And then from that point on, you have established, just like you did with the horses, that the female needs to be strong and independent, eating out of your hand. So is she strong and independent if she eats out of the hand of the master? Of course not, right? And the children will be raised to be in reverse roles, so where she would raise her daughters to do the same, and she will raise her sons to be now afraid because she will be afraid that if she allows her son to ever be strong again, that he will end up the same way she just saw the other sons get messed up. Right? That ain't got nothing to do. See, that's their thing. Now, the only reason it has something to do with me now is because I've still got brothers and sisters out here that are living by that. And by the way, that's not just the American part of the diaspora. That's worldwide because I still got brothers and sisters that claim that if Jesus ain't white by that colonial social construct, and if he don't have straight hair, and if it's not blonde, and if his eyes aren't blue, then it can't be Jesus. As if Jesus was his name in the first place. Right? But conformity, right? But that's why be ye not conformed. See, read your Bible, it'll bless you. Everybody always talk about these verses. Read them and read them well. Be ye not conformed to this world. The word world once again means what? Cosmos with a K. That means what? That means system. Be ye not conformed to the system, but be renewed in your mind. Or I'm sorry, be ye not conformed to the system, but be ye transformed by the renewal of your mind. That means every day make it new again. Renew. Don't just be new. A lot of y'all are satisfied with new. New, 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 everything new, everything new. Y'all are satisfied with that. But don't be satisfied with being new. That's average. Be renewed. 20 minutes a day, you studying whatever you want to be. If you studied it and gave your best to something for 20 minutes a day, you would automatically become a master of it. You would automatically be a master of it. Why? Because it would make you better than 90-something% of people on the planet. 20 minutes a day, 365 days a year, that'd be about 100 hours. It's really more like 15, 16 minutes a day, actually. It's more like 16 minutes a day. So if you give 20, you're giving some extra, right? But if you were to give 16 minutes a day, every day, to something, anything, you would master it and you'd be better than 95% of the world at it. Imagine if you decided to give half an hour a day to something. If you think that your marriage is terrible, imagine if you did something for your marriage besides yelling about it for 30 minutes a day every day. How you doing, Sister Shima? Imagine. You would become better than 95% of people on the planet. Right? It don't even take that much. Now imagine you tithe towards something every day. That's 2 hours and 12 minutes a day. And for 2 hours and 12 minutes a day, you gave to being your greatest self. See, but you can't do it. You got to work. That's how wicked this system is. The same system that says that you need your best. They got studies out there, y'all, that the people that are making it will tell you allowed them to be able to create the businesses that now you have to work for, right? So that you can barely survive. But in order for them to get to where it is that they created the system that you can be in, they said that they took just give me 20 minutes a day. Now they want your child to go to school 8 hours a day and never learn about themselves. Think about this now. For 8 hours a day, your child is learning how to be an assistant. Now, only 20 minutes a day makes you worthy of being a master or something, right? So if I give your child over to something 8 hours a day to a wicked system, your child is mastering the wicked system on an exponential level. Oh, hallelujah. They don't want us to go there, but we got to be real. Come on now. Come on now. How you doing, Minister? How you doing, Tama? MIT Tama, Minister Tama? Right? Come on now. If I study something, statistics show that if I do something 20 minutes a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, I will be better than 95% of the planet at what I do every year. Which means that then I'll get into a higher bracket every year I do it, right? Your child was told to go to school 8 hours a day. 8 hours a day. And then we're trying to figure out why have they not mastered themselves, but they've mastered being in a wicked system. I can easily show you. It don't take that much. Come on. Excuse me. Come on, somebody. It don't take that much. And don't feel guilty. It's not your fault. You didn't know. It was an innocent mistake. So it was a mistake, but it was done in innocence. Now that we know better, question, what we going to do about it? Because this is what people have hit me with. Well, I'm not going to just outright tell my child to stop and this and that or whatever. I'm not saying like, be like, just stop everything and your child can't take it. But what I'm saying is you got to start making some kind of move. What is your child going to do? You just going to keep letting them do the same thing? You're just going to keep letting them do the same thing? Like, I'm not saying every church is bad, but I'm saying your church is cognitive dissonance. Your child knows that, right, depending on if you're telling them the truth, your child knows there's a difference between Jesus and Yeshua. Your child knows there's a difference between Christianity and being a follower of the way. Your child knows, but you're still saying, go to church and do this and do this. At some point, we got to have a conversation about what we're going to do to change this. I'm not saying that everything gonna happen overnight. What I'm saying is that what is the plan that you have to take your child out the system? Is your child just gonna be somebody who's informed about being in the system? Because we got a lot of people that are informed but stay in the system, right? So yes, they tricked us. They tricked you into signing your child and registering your child with a state. They tricked us. They did it. They got us. Our parents didn't know better. Their parents didn't know better. And we get to a place where the parents that didn't know better, they were afraid to teach us because if they taught us too much, that we might end up like those brothers they saw killed. I get it. Right? Now comes a place to where if we know the system is sus, are we going to stay sus? That's cirque, right? If we know the system is sus, do we stay in with sus? If you know that you with a down low brother, right? If you know that brother is doing stuff on the DL, do you stay with the DL brother or do you change it up? Come on, right? If you know that sister is out there waiting every time you leave, and you find out that every time you leave to go to work, somebody come and tell you, hey man, I'm just letting you know out of respect. She cheating on you, and you put up some cameras and you find out that she cheating, you gonna stay or you gonna change it up? And if you stay, there got to be some kind of changes in order for you to stay. Now, what I'm telling you in this sense is that you're married to a wicked system that has already decided it will not change. It is going to get worse. It will deceive you, but it will always get worse. At some point, what we going to do? You going to stay married or you going to leave and get back to your husband who you're supposed to be with in the first place? You're not supposed to be married to the system, to the beast. You're supposed to be married to the lamb. You hear what I'm saying? It's a different mindset. How are we preaching and proclaiming on this stuff to people and nobody's talking about freedom from a perverted marriage that you call the beast? You all in on the beast. You preaching the beast. You teaching the beast. You're so ready to tell everybody, I'm so blessed that my child got straight A's. In order for them to get an A in history, they have to lie. George Washington chopped down a cherry tree and told his father that he could not tell a lie. He was ripping the teeth out of slaves. That's where his dentures came from. He didn't know how to eat correctly. He was too crazy to eat correctly. So he lost all his teeth by the time he was 30 years old. He was a Mason. That's why he wore Masonic gear. And he had to sign up with a Moorish sultan. That's why they gave you a new constitution. That's why you have two constitutions, technically three constitutions, but you have two constitutions that you go by. You have the one that was before George Washington, the one in 1789 or 1791, take your pick. Your children have to lie in order to ace the test. How long do we stay in that? And what are we going to do to come out of it? What system are we going to create? What community are we going to create? What land are we going to take? And then when we get it, what are we going to do to continue it so that they don't ever have to go back? You hear? You hear what I'm saying? What are we going to do to make sure we create something so they never have to go back? Right? Because that's the problem too, is that if some of you were to walk off right now and be free, we don't have your back enough for you to stay there. So you're going to have to come back. And then when you come back, we'll be the first people to look at you and say, see, he thought he was going to do it, but he wasn't. At least they lived free for a second, and right, rather than stay committed to being a slave for the rest of their life. But we don't celebrate it. We don't celebrate that. How you doing, trauma shaman? Like, what happens to the husband? See, watch this. You want great husbands. Is he free to be a great husband? What is the environment that requires his freedom? Husbands must be free. You want men that are bound to be great husbands. It's not going to work like that. I got to start freeing them up. You got to start freeing them up so that they can be what you want them to be. A son that's always been tied down by his community will never become a husband that's free. He can by the grace of Yah, but I'm telling you the statistics are going to show that most of them ain't going to make it. Look on death row and tell me how many of those people in death row had fathers. Do the math, do the research. Use statistics, since people want to be so analytical. Use the analytics. Look for how many people lived free because they were Republican or Democrat. You tell me what the statistics show. You tell me what the algorithm shows for that. Right? Run tell that. Go put that in your system. How many Republicans and Democrats lived free lives? Because all of them were slaves. Every last one of them were slaves. They pay taxes, don't they? They all slaves. And we don't even know the difference. There you go, sick soil. Put a seed in sick soil, you're gonna get a sick plant. Malcolm X taught us, right? If you have a poor family, right? Or if you have a poor family, they probably were in a poor neighborhood. If they were in a poor neighborhood, you probably had poor parents. If you had poor parents, you probably were a poor child. If you were a poor child, you probably went to a poor school. If you went to a poor school, you probably had a poor education. If you had a poor education, you probably went out and got a poor. You probably got a poor job. If you got a poor job, it's probably because you're part of a poor environment, right? A poor neighborhood, and it just starts all over again. If you're in an environment where everybody's enslaved, if you're in an environment where everybody's mindset is, let me fit into what everybody else says. If you're in an environment that says that school is more important than community, the first school that each and every one of us had was the womb. Why is it in all this schooling and education and all this stuff, nobody talking about the womb? That's the garden that the seed was planted in. Even if the plant is strong, that it strong as it is, despite the soil, despite the soil, not because of it. Right? Like at some point, we got to start saying to ourselves, right, that what we've been taught, and we're gonna be in this series. I didn't even know this was gonna be a series, like I said, to this rising, right? But this series talking about the system is sus. A sus system develops sus people. This is why no matter how great a police, I don't believe that all cops are bad, right? But all cops at some point must realize they are part of a bad system. I appreciate I appreciate those who really want to put their lives on the line for people. I appreciate those who are former military. I give you a salute. I'm former military myself. I appreciate what you would do for others. I really do. I really, really do. I really do appreciate the hours, your heart, your blood, your sweat, your tears. Some of you are trying to do as much as you can. But let's keep it a buck. You don't work for the people, or at least the people you think you do. You don't work for our people, especially, and you're not supposed to. And I'm not mad at you for it. I'm just telling you the truth. How you doing, artist? Thanks for being part of the community. How you doing, Akash? Thanks for being part of the community. I'm not mad at you. You said the law is also known as instruction. Why do we accept the instruction of a system not from the creator? There you go, right? But you must comprehend, like, as much as you might want to do well, the system is not designed for you to change it. And as bad as people say, and I hear from people to try to use witchcraft and create all this dialogue and use spells and spell up all these words to be able to say, well, you know what, you're not talking about any result. Yeah, I am talking about things that bring results. You're not talking about anything to change. Yeah, I am talking about change. First and foremost, we have to change our mentality of what the system is, and secondly, yeah, let's start doing stuff for ourselves. And when I say ourselves, you can look like me, or if you have the mindset of me, either way, let's do something together, because the system is not designed for us to exist together. You're not gonna like, I can't play boo boo the fool no more, as some of our ancestors used to say. I can't be boo boo the fool no more. Thank you for the love. I can't do the same thing that I used to do. How you doing, brother Jerry? I can't. I cannot play with it anymore. I can't play with my people like that anymore. If I know that something's wicked, should I not call it out? If I know that something was devised to ensure our staying in the same place, should I not, let people know that that's what it is? At some point, wickedness is wickedness. And we've been singing, we shall overcome, and ain't overcame yet. At some point, maybe we should, as Malcolm X said, maybe we should, at some point, we should stop singing and start swinging. How you doing, Sister Dawn? Like, at some point, maybe we should stop singing and start swinging. Maybe we should swing back in prayer, sure. But also maybe we should swing back and swinging putting a hoe, not what we call our sisters, but taking an actual hoe to the ground and cultivating. Right? I went and I got some buckets the other day, and I got a bunch of stuff and seedlings I've been showing y'all or whatever. And even though I'm in a place where I'm not gonna be able to stay here, so I can't really do like the beds and all that stuff, the raised beds where I'm at. I got a bunch of huge buckets. If you don't think that we're gonna be eating some food and trading some food, like we said, at some point it's time to stop singing about it and start swinging. I love me some songs. I love me music. Right. Tomorrow when we come back in the evening time for our prayer and worship, I'm gonna be playing piano. Finally got my little pedal, so it's not gonna sound so terrible and stuff like that. It's actually gonna sound like it's supposed to on the piano. All that. I'm excited about it. Right. We're gonna get it in. We're gonna let those prayers come up there. Right. I believe in the prayers of the righteous availeth much. I also know though that faith without works is dead. So I'll be the first to pray. I'll pray with you, but now what we gonna do together? Thank you for the love. Appreciate it. At some point, we're doing this thing not expecting any growth. Beat those swords and the plowshares, right? There's a time for peace, a time for war, a time for crying, a time for rejoicing, a time for all of right. There's a season for everything. I'm here to tell you, I'm done. I'm done with no growth, right? Even if it's painful, I'd rather have pain going forward than be at comfort and keep slipping backwards. It's not even that we're staying the same. A lot of people keep going backwards, asking for the same thing. Why won't you give us jobs? You sound like the same people that were saying, why won't you let us be sharecroppers? You sound like the same people that were saying, why don't you let us have the ability to be able to they're not letting us vote. I mean, at some point we got to start asking ourselves, why do we keep sounding like the same people? It's because you're the same people. And it's not necessarily because you're the same people. You're the same people who don't even realize you're saying the same thing. Yeah, sustainability is key, right? It's not even that you're the same people. It's that you're the same people that keep asking for the same thing. And at some point, they've given you pieces of the same thing and it's never worked. So at some point, why am I going back to them like that? At some point, like we just got to start asking some questions, right? At some point, Trauma Shop, at some point, bro, I got to start asking some questions. I'm just saying, you know, like, why is it that I still have using the constructs and everything? Why is it that I still have black women who keep saying that nobody understands us, and they've been saying the same thing since they were slaves? Like, why hasn't the conversation changed? And why haven't I heard them yet? Why is it that I still have brothers that are saying I don't feel respect? Why hasn't the conversation changed? Why is it that I keep hearing people who are talking about, oh yeah, man, I don't need nobody, I don't need this, I don't need that, I'm self-made, this and that. When real talk, you can't spend money on your own self. Like, you make the money that you make because somebody sows into you. How you doing, Ronnie? Like, at some point, when does our conversation change about us, beloved, divide? When does your conversation change about you? See, because if you're having somebody else's words come off of your lips, then it's not your conversation anyways. Ooh, well, they used to say that's tight, but it's right. It's not your conversation anyways. Okay, why is it that black men ain't no good? Is that your conversation or is that somebody else's? I just told you about Gloria Steinem and the CIA. The CIA told you that, and they kept it the same thing that Willie Lynch did. We talking about 1712. 1712. Christmas Day, 1712. It was a Christmas service They was telling you why black men and black women ain't no good, and you keeping the same values. 1712. It's 311 years past that now. And we still have, or 310 and a half years past that, and we're still having the same conversation. That's not even yours. I got at some point to say, hey, look, Willie, massively done, bro. Like, I've given you credit. You did you did your thing on that thing. That slavery thing, man, you worked that thing out. But this ain't even your conversation no more. Like, what are y'all doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, look, I know this person kept this up and kept this up, but at some point, like, what are y'all? Why are you guys? Why is it I'm still seeing black women on videos saying that black men are trash? And why is it I'm still seeing black men on videos saying black women are trash? If anything, say that mindset is trash and we need to leave somebody else's stuff alone and treat each other the way we always did before somebody told you that you were a slave. This is why school should become irrelevant, because it's not relevant to you to be in school by somebody else outside of your own home, outside of your own culture. And for real, even when we get into the hierarchy or get into the classes, if we want to go into classism and not just focus on what some would call racism only, even when we deal with the classes, the people of different classes got enough sense. That's why they like their children to go to private schools. Yeah, we have other people telling us our story, and then we telling it for them. Remember, Willie Lynch told y'all that. He said we're not going to have to worry about if we do this right. He said we're not going to tell this. He said they're going to tell us. Willie Lynch told you the game. He said if we do this right, we're not going to have to be out there making sure that we cause friction between them. He said they'll do it by themselves. He said if we do this right, this ain't going to be something that we're going to have arguments about for ourselves. We're going to have to make sure that we keep an overseer there overnight and all this stuff. He said the time is done with that. He said we try to get to a point to where they'll do it to themselves, where they'll argue over the plantation, where Brooklyn at. Don't say Baltimore, it's Baltimore. Right? There's a difference between Oaktown and San Fran. I don't like them San Fran N-words. They ain't like us Oaktown N-words. We the real N-words out here. Yeah, you really are. To also we see the ones saying the truth that we know why it doesn't get pushed as much as black hate. Very true. Out here, it used to be like we were talking about earlier. It used to be ignorance, but it's not ignorance anymore. Now it's a choice. We sick, boss. Yeah. Fight harder to put the blaze out than the master himself. And I'm here to tell you, even they did a number. That's why we got to realize, even that black-white thing, they did a number on poor white people. You know why? Because they got poor white people believing in something that's not even true. They believe that the overseer is better than the slave. But the slave, even the field slave, sometimes live better than the overseer. And the house Negro dang sure lived better than the overseer. The overseer was out there in poverty, and a lot of times because they were always busy having to take on and make sure the slaves were all right, they couldn't even take care of their own homes. They had 5, 6 people living in a little house, taking a bath, and dudes watching dudes buck naked in the bath. They ain't had nothing. Sometimes the field slave, had more than the overseer. But the overseer, you know what the overseer had? The overseer had the whip. And see, that's why a lot of y'all value the whip. You value the whip because, hey, you ain't have nothing. You was less off than the slave, but that whip, the fact that you could take out your aggression on the person that thought they were better than you by being a slave. Think about the mentality of that. That is a mind freak right there. That's a mind bleep for you. You can just look up Willie Lynch letter. Matter of fact, if you look up Willie Lynch letter PDF, look up when you Google it, the second one that pops up, it should say Willie Lynch letter PDF or something like that. But when you Google it or whatever, Google that, it's to say the making of a slave, Willie Lynch letter, or Willie Lynch letter, making of a slave, something like that. Then just say PDF at the end. But it should be the second one that pops up on your Google search. Right? He told you what was going to happen. He put it out there to the letter. And they did not hesitate to follow the script. Problem is that we follow the same script. He told you this was what's going to happen. His whole thing was, if we can get them to follow the same script, we're going to be all right. Right? They had their own version of we going to be all right. Their version was, if we get them to follow our script, we ain't going to have to do nothing. We're not going to have to fight. We're not going to have to worry about this, right? They will be so into us that they will be upset when they don't get to fight for this country. And look, I'm somebody former military, right? But let's keep it a buck, right? We will get upset when we don't protect, right? When we don't protect the nation, right? That doesn't even look at us as a people. Upset. Sorry about the trigger warning, right? But we'll be upset when we don't get to vote for the system that doesn't do anything for you. Upset about, think about this now. Think about this, right? Women's suffrage. We're so upset. We need to vote, even though that wasn't for black women, by the way, right? But right, they weren't fighting for the votes for black women. By the way, the 14th or the 15th Amendment, brothers, we didn't fight for the vote for the right for our sisters to vote either. Okay, so there's some issues with this thing, but either way, right? Y'all fought for this women's suffrage, women's suffrage, women's suffrage. You're fighting for a system that didn't even want you to vote. You said just dawned on you that they had to use the script on themselves first. That's how they know it. Yeah. By the way, talk to an Irishman. Not a lot of these people who say they're Irish but really don't have any ties to it. But talk to an actual Irishman or Irish woman, and they'll tell you that a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, they was doing on them hundreds of years before they got over to us in Africa. Before they started dealing with the Negro or the Israelite or whatever, they were dealing with that with them. Right? But we don't even recognize it. Like, sister, y'all don't realize it. Like, women out there, women, whether you're in our diaspora or not, whether you're grafting or not, hear me and hear me well. You were not allowed to vote in 1789. You were not allowed to vote in 1791. You had no vote in 1776 over anything. You could die fighting, but you couldn't vote on why you were fighting. This system is not for you. So when you keep talking about the patriarchy, right, and you're going to change the system is supposed to be for the true patriarchy, who are the only real white men or men of distinction or whatever, who have a certain amount of money and have a certain amount of land. Some of the ones that you'll never know their name. Y'all are excited because you know a name like Soros or Rothschild or this and that. Tell me how many Rothschild children you actually know. What are the ones that you've actually seen? Right? We talk about the Rockefellers. How many of them do you actually know? Have you actually seen? This system is not for you. Right? Stop looking for women's rights in a system that never cared about the rights of women. Your only right was to be somebody that was buck naked, pregnant, in a house somewhere. If you did more with your life, great on you. But that was the average. That was the mean. That was the accredited woman in this corporation. When you go to school and the school system reflects that they only want you to go to an accredited version of yourself and be the average woman in their system that ain't supposed to be nothing, you must realize that that's not an outlier. That's the way the system works. Why would you want to join up with that? Why are you fighting for that? Why are you trying to be free in that? That is designed to enslave you. That's why it's designed to be against thee. Right? That's why you have a lot of women that grow up who would rather be called the baddest B word than be the greatest wife. Because she's not protected as a wife, but she's applauded as a female dog. That's the system you live in. It's designed to do that. But I get it though, because when you say all men are dogs, you don't realize that once you made men dogs, or once the system made men dogs and you agreed to it, that meant that anything that would be married from a dog or come out of a dog has got to be a dog. So that's why you became a bee. You thought that you were doing something by caving up because we weren't protecting you anymore. We were going to prisons. We sometimes were going to prisons unfairly. When we tried to be great, we didn't think being great was anything, but hey, if we put a ball between our legs and we cross somebody up, we hit them with the hezzy and all that, and we finger roll it. People gave us some credit for it. We thought that was more important than making sure that we took care of you. I get it. There's a lot of stuff that we did. There's a lot of stuff we were messed up on. I get it. But guess what? You're not coming out of this by yourself, because neither are we. We need you and you need us. And at some point, we got to get us together. At some point, we got to get us together. I apologize, right? And I'll apologize all day. I'll say I'm sorry all day. I'll stand in the gap. I'll pray for you. I'll pray over the situations that our fathers and our fathers' fathers and our fathers' fathers' fathers and all this stuff put us in. They were not right-minded, right? They were not doing what they were supposed to do. They were taught to be in a wicked, corrupt system. They thought that voting without you in the 15th Amendment meant that they were going to be able to protect you. They had cognitive dissonance. We get it. They were frustrating. They fell into the same stuff. They wanted to wear the same suits. They wanted to have the same jobs. They wanted to have the same women, because that's what they were told. They were told by y'all. Even at one point when you had to have it reversed, when Willie Lynch did that thing and they beat the men in front of you and you didn't want to see your little boy beat, you tried to make your little boy act like them. But your little boy, and loving everything about them, started to hate everything about you. I know, I get it. It's wild how this thing happened. But now that we know what it is, now it's time for us to come out. And thank you for the love, right? Now it's time for us to come out. It all happened. It's all true. It's all documented. It's still affecting our lives together, right? PTSS, post-traumatic slave syndrome, it's still attacking us till this day. Now it's time to come out, though. Now it's time to rise up. Kwam Yashada. Now it's time for us to rise. Now it's time to heal. Now it's time for us to have actual conversation about it and start saying, what can we do to create communities that are powerful? Even if it only starts off virtually, even if it's only us doing it by phone, even if some of us are meeting up in person with each other nowadays, right? It's time for us to start getting to a place where we're going to come together with a mindset that we can't stay in this anymore. Can't stay in it anymore. It's not serving us. It's causing us to not serve the Most High, because you got to make a decision. And guess what? It's getting to the place where you're going to have to make a decision. Will you go ahead and be part of the beast, or will you go ahead and trust the Most High? Can the Most High provide for His people in the wilderness? See, we like to talk about Scripture, but Revelation 12 comes on the table, and we don't want to do it. Are you ready, Israel, who gave birth to the Messiah? That the Messiah would do exactly what Genesis 3 said, be bruised in the heel as it crushed the enemy's head. And once the Messiah went back and the devil was cast down to the earth, Israel's supposed to make sure that we are separate. You got to have a separate mindset. You have a separate teaching, a separate heart, a separate conversation, a separate system, and be in the wilderness. What is the wilderness? Word wild means you don't fit into somebody's version of civilization, or savage, sauvage, en le français. It's okay to be wild to them. I told y'all this before, see, and we'll say it again. We'll get ready to take our leave, right? But it's wild. We think that a lion is tamed, right? Or at least a lion is not the same as a lion in the wild. Now, it's not the same as a lion in the wild when it's in a zoo, right? But a lion in a zoo is actually, according to a lion's culture, is a wild lion. How you doing, babe? Thanks for being on. My wife is on the Honorable Mind. Check her out on TikTok, YouTube, website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A and D, the letter N. Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Peep game. You got it in your mind, right? That a lion in the zoo, right, is more tame. But see, to a lion in what you call the wild, the word wild, it just means savage, or it means it doesn't fit into somebody's civilization. And a lion civilization, it should have it should have a lot of square miles, 20 to 200, whatever, 200, 20 to 200, or 40 to 200, or 40 to 400, I don't know, something like that, square miles to be able to roam as its territory. That's what a lion should have. That lion in the zoo, if it's a blessed lion in the zoo, it might have half an acre. It never hunts, right? It never kills. It doesn't really protect its family like that. All that stuff, right? At least not on the level that it would if it was in its actual civilization. So you see a lion here and you say, oh, that's not a wild lion. To a lion, a real lion, that lion in the zoo is wild. That rat lion in the zoo doesn't make sense. Why would you be in somebody else's culture? Why would you be behind bars? Thank you, 20 to 400 square miles. Thank you. Why would you be behind bars for somebody else? Why would you not hunt for your own food? It doesn't make sense to a lion that's in its civilization to be in a wild situation like that. Right? It doesn't make sense. And if a free lion were able to come and try and take another lion and say, let's come out of captivity, the lion that's in captivity would hesitate because that's all it's ever known. The free lion says, you can roam, you can run, you can actually hunt. You know how like you be as the lion would try to disguise to another lion. You know how you be looking at your tail and be trying to like look at it and look at it, and sometimes you want to chase it. You know the reason why you chase it? You chase it because you never chased anything. You want to actually like leave. You want to go out, right? Right? Like you supposed to run. Like you can't even run in here. You ain't got no space to run. You ever thought about that? A lion can't even run. You can't even be. Yeah, you strong to the humans. They're afraid of you, but for real, out here you ain't nothing. You think a hyena would see you in a cage and be scared of you? But out here, I can take on 12 hyenas on my best day. Right? They took a lion, they took Yehovah, they took Judah and put it behind bars. They treat it like a cat, but then tell it it's a lion. Yeah, it's a big cat, but there's a difference between a big cat and a cat. Right? I'm just saying they taking a whole group of people, right? The system is sus. They took a whole group of people and then said, don't even roar. We won't even put you around. Like the roar in behind the cage is not the same as a roar in the Serengeti. Right? You have the ability to chase down ox, to chase down wildebeest. You have the ability to work together as a team. See, in the case, you don't work together as a team to hunt nobody, right? You don't know nothing about that. You haven't been born in descendants of anybody in a long time who used to be out there. But when you was out there, you worked together as a team to make sure that the whole team ate. And it was okay for daddy to eat first. You know why? Because daddy was the protector. Now daddy don't protect. Sometimes daddy outright don't even provide. So when daddy's not the protector or the provider, there ain't no order or structure to this. But see, it used to be okay for daddy to eat first, you know, right? To get that, as Chris Rock said, the big piece of chicken. You know why it was okay to have a big piece of chicken? Because daddy was supposed to protect and provide. If you're going to protect and provide, then you got to have fuel. It was necessary for daddy to eat first. But daddy don't deserve to eat first because daddy ain't even there. Daddy ain't even daddy. Nowadays, daddy don't even grow up to be daddy because daddy was taught that he's supposed to be something else. He's not even supposed to be a man anymore. But you were supposed to feel security. What's the number one need of a woman? Or of a wife? Is to feel secure. Number two need to get affection. If you got security and affection, get all the chicken you want, daddy. That's how it worked, right? That's why some of us grew up and when you had the mother and father, right? I'm not just talking about the bedroom being perverted. I'm talking about some of us who had our mother and father. You grew up, and what did you hear daddy call, right? Mom wouldn't just be like husband. Sometimes she'd be like, okay, dad, okay, daddy. And you would hear mama say, daddy, I might need, this much money or whatever. And he say, okay, baby, why? Because she was his first baby. Before you had a baby, she was his first baby. She came first. He secured her. He gave her affection. Okay, baby, no problem. That was the way it worked. You know what I'm saying? Like you heard stuff like that because that's what we were supposed to be. Spiritually, he was supposed to be daddy. He was supposed to be the person who did Bible study. He was supposed to be the person that protected. He was supposed to be the person that gave value. He was supposed to be the person that before baby girl, his baby had to look for validation for somebody else. He was supposed to be the first person to be like, you beautiful, you awesome, you loving, you kind. You outstanding. You're magnificent. You're great. You're outstanding. Like, right? You sexy. Look at you in that dress. Look at you in that color. What you need, baby girl? You need this for that? Oh, I'm so excited about this. Thank you so much for doing this. What you want to do? Let's help your business. He was supposed to be the first one, so that no other dude who came into her presence who said those same words, it wouldn't even mean anything to her, to her, like at least not on the same level. She wouldn't be like, she wouldn't be sitting there, oh, giggling stuff. You know why your wife giggling and stuff like that when guys say that? Because you don't say that. If you say it first, there ain't no room for no other brother to say it. And a lot of sisters didn't even grow up with that. Sometimes even if they had dad in the house. Oh, thanks, babe. It's 11:11. I appreciate it. Some sisters grew up with mothers because they had never gotten it. They didn't say that. They didn't get affection. They didn't get security. At some point, we got to fix it. It is crazy out here. It's like, feel like it's 20 degrees 1 second, and then it feel like it's 75 the next. I took his jacket and put it on, took it up, put it on, take it up, put it on so many times. But we're going to get ready to take our leave, though, for the day. I can see this going to be a series. I didn't know it was going to be. I didn't know until early this rising. Thank y'all for your prayers. We're going to get this thing together as far as what's going on with me. There's some stuff, but we're going to get this together. We're going to get this together. We appreciate you. Oh, Kundalini. I'm on, right? But I thank y'all for being on. I hope now that you see the need of it. We got some problems. This is problematic behavior. Now that we've addressed that it's a problem, now the question is what we're going to do to solve it. Are you ready to solve it? Y'all ready to come out? The system is wicked. We don't have to be part of it. Bavakasha, Achyat, Tarai, or Tori, right? Now it's time for us. We can come out. We can come out, right? But I need you to see that if there's a problem, the system is sus. That's what we're going to be in for a little bit. I don't know where we're going. I'm excited, though. The system is sus, right? And as I said earlier, if you're in something that's sus long enough, you can't help but be sus. If you're in Hollywood, I don't care what your intentions were. At some point, you're going to be sus, right? If you're a cop, I don't care what your intentions are. At some point, you got to admit you're going to have to do some stuff that's sus, even if you don't want to. You have to make a decision. Am I going to keep my job, right? It'd be sus. Or am I going to stand up for dignity and lose my job but not be sus? At some point, you're going to have to make a decision. Am I going to stay with fiat cash? Or am I going to have something that's better than cash and something that they can't remove? And am I going to protect it and make sure that nobody can come for it lawfully? Say, can we teach old dogs new tricks? It's not necessarily the dog, so to speak. Scripturally speaking, we would say it like this, right? We can't take new wine and put it into old wineskin. Your problem as the dog is not the wine. Your problem is the wineskin. Your problem is the environment, right? If I take an old dog, I try to teach him new tricks. Maybe not. Like, put it like this: an old dog might be something that's vicious, might snap on you, might have been taught to be a dog that fought and all those things or whatever. But what if I reward the dog the same way that I did for winning a fight? If I reward the dog for simply, not snapping at me. If you don't snap, I'll give you the same food that I give you for when you were trying to kill a dog. I used to give you a reward when you kill a dog, right? Now I'll give you the same reward for not snapping on me, right? You change the environment up and you change the parameters and you change what behavior you reward. This is often something I talk about quite often, right? We talk about brothers need to change, but what is the reward for the brother changing? Or people getting these fights? It's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. Okay, you might have forgiven the person, but you didn't build back up trust. You have no equity as far as trust is concerned. So you've forgiven them. Y'all have been together for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years now. Again, but y'all still haven't forgiven, or you've forgiven each other, but you haven't learned to trust each other. So what's the reward that's going to allow for them to trust? So you got to give some parameters. If you do this, then I'll go ahead and show you this, and I'll do it every time. And even if it's a little thing, right? If you speak my love language, if you know my love language is words of affirmation, your love language is acts of service. You don't care about what's said, you just want it to be done. But I don't really move that well unless you say something to me. So let's make a promise to each other. Every time I say, or every time you say something positive to me, right? I promise I'm gonna do something positive for you. And every time I do something positive for you, you should say something positive for me, right? Every time you do that, now we're building up trust. Now we're setting up a different environment. Now the reward is different. See, before the only reward, right? The only reward is if you do exactly what I want. So the person would just stay there and wait for you to say something. And they weren't gonna do anything until you said something. So if you capitulate, then they'll say, okay, cool, say it again, cool, say it again, and then maybe somewhere in there I'll do something for you one every once in a while. And the other person would be the same way. If you don't do what I say, if you don't do something for me, then I'm not going to say something for you. And then even if you do it, I'm gonna be like, well, why should I say something? You're supposed to do it. So I take away the ability to trust each other, right? So the wineskin don't work for that wine that we want. We want the new wine of the newness of relationship becoming one, but we still have this thing of being adversarial and getting away from each other. No, 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 no. No, now it's time to be able to cause a new thing, right? So same thing has to happen. It's not about can I teach the dog new tricks. It's about can I give the dog an environment that makes the dog think that maybe the old tricks don't matter anymore, right? Now we can go somewhere. Does the old environment matter in the new environment, right? If I can't, if I'm saying that having my own land is more is more valuable to me than making sure that I get all the money that I used to make, right? Then what's the reward? Well, let me show you. Here's gonna be some food that you can eat. Okay. I mean, I used to get food when I made all the money and stuff. Yeah, but this is actual food you grew. You know it's real. It doesn't come with the health concerns. Oh, okay. Well, all right. I guess I could lean more towards that. But what else? Okay. Well, you got your own land. Well, guess what? Write your own bylaws for your own land and write your own version of a UCC that connects to the UCC. Well, what does that do? Well, that means that now certain things that happen, you don't have to worry about doing it the way that the world does. Oh, okay, for real? Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. Well, cool. Well, what else comes with that? Well, also in this environment, if you're going to be sovereign, let's make sure that we start working on your new passport. Well, why should I work on my new passport? Well, if we get your passport done correctly, right? Then we also put you on a do not detain list. So even if you get pulled over, they can't just mess with you like they used to. But also, more importantly than that, we make you a natural person again. We make you an actual real person instead of a false fictitious entity. So what does that mean? That means that any if you still have a 9 to 5, or if you do business with anybody or any contracts, you can fill out a W-8 BEN instead of the W-2, W-4, W-9, etc. But what does that do? That means that basically you are allowed to work for the system, but you don't have to get taxed. Well, that sounds like something crazy to me. And the IRS said, no, because the IRS allows non-citizen nationals to not pay taxes. But doesn't that mean that they have to come from another country? Well, yeah. When we fill out your stuff, we're gonna have to show you how to do it. When we fill out that DS-11 correctly, you're not gonna be from this country on paper anymore. Oh, really? Yeah, because you're a real person. So why would you pay a fictitious entity taxes when you're a real person? Right now, you still got to obey laws. You still got to know the difference between laws and statutes and this and that. You still got to know what things you can and cannot do. You still must be honorable. Yes, I am. You still must be honorable. At the same time, though, right? You can be in a position to do whatever it is that you're called to do. Now we can have a conversation. See, now we can talk about this stuff. Now we can have reality. Now we can talk about these things correctly. Right? Now we can actually begin to talk about being kingdom minded. See, you're so capitalist mindset that you don't have a mindset to actually make capital. Because in capitalism, everybody's not supposed to make capital, but everybody is capital. Woo! I just said something right there. If you caught that, that's gonna bless you. That one's gonna mess with you when you sleep. If you caught that, right? Not everybody's supposed to make capital in capitalism, but everybody's supposed to be capital. You see that? And you might not know the difference. Blood, sweat, and tears makes you capital. Come on. Blood, sweat, and tears. You're not just a regular person. Even if you're an artificial person, you are capital. You make somebody money. So if you're busy making everybody else money, what I'm saying is might as well make some for yourself. That's all I'm saying. But once again, the system is sus. The system says make capital, uses you as capital, uses you for capital, but never teaches you about capitalism. They use you in capitalism, but they ain't never taught you about capitalism. Isn't that a little strange? I'm just saying that's a little weird to me. It's a little sus. As we said, the system is sus. But nevertheless, I thank y'all for being on today. I appreciate the king and queen in each and every one of you. Even if you're not living inside that kingdom or queendom yet, we appreciate the potential king and queen in each and every one of you. We're going to get ready to do our shout out on TikTok. So if you're interested in finding out more information, even if you got to go before we do our shout out, it's just going to be in a couple minutes. But if you want to stick around for the shout out and learn how that works, so we can possibly get you more information on things that we do outside of just the live sessions and things like that, or helping each other's business, or all these different things that we have. The event coming up September 29th through October the 6th, whatever the case might be. But we thank you guys. Ministerial staff, we should have our meeting tonight at 6:30 p.m. Eastern New York time. We'll have some actual training this time. I know it's been a while. We'll have some actual training and we can do some Q&A with y'all on some of the training. So if you want to come on in to that, we'll try to make sure that we send that out to everybody. Thank you guys so much. I apologize for Tuesday. Things are going to get better. I'll just say that. But thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your concerns. Thank you for some of y'all even looking out for my family. Really appreciate y'all. But if you're on TikTok, if you want more information, you can also go to our main TikTok page, click on the link tree. As soon as you do that, you'll be able to get more information on how to text us or email us, or just, get more information about what we do through the website, etc. Even the YouTube channel, the stuff is on there as well. But if you stick around on TikTok, we're going to go through our shout out where you'll be able to see all the information, including how you can reach out to us, text us, email us, and see some of the stuff we do as a group. To everybody for being on, thank you so much. We give all honor and praise once again to the Most High. Please study to show yourself approved. Pray about this and bring it before the Most High, that once you get this, you can be a workman that needed not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Also, please, ma'am, please, sir, take time out to check out my wife, the Honorable Maya, on TikTok, YouTube, or website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree, and we're thankful and grateful for everything she does for the diaspora in that vein. But thank y'all so much. Appreciate you. I really don't have anything else for today. Should be back on this evening with, trying to look and see who with. Well, just look for us later this evening. We should be back on today. And but we thank you guys. We're going to show you how the shout out works in a second if you're on TikTok, so just hang around. To everybody, though, we thank you for being on all the platforms. As always, has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken, until we have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again. Please remember, as always, Yashadal, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family. We'll talk to you soon. Peace. To everybody who's still on TikTok, we thank you guys so much.